Zhao Fenghua had also finished eating and was very curious about the relationship between the siblings, so she followed them back to the hotel. Little sister, dad, mom, and big brother are at the hotel. They aren't hungry. I came out to eat alone, and they must be so jealous. Haha, I'm the first to see you. Little sister, you're even prettier than in the photo. What about your boyfriend? Why didn't he come? Is he really good at martial arts? Can he walk on walls? Can he float on water? On the way, Tang Chongfeng chattered endlessly about how much he missed his sister, but soon shifted to talking about Xin Xiao, expressing his strong desire for martial arts. My master can do all that. He taught me how to pick flowers and leaves. Watch this. Emile, feeling pumped up, took out some playing cards from his pocket and threw them at the flowers in a nearby flower bed. The cards flew swiftly and cut through a blooming bougainvillea. Boa and Tang Chongfeng were stunned, their mouths agape, lost in amazement. I want to learn too. They both exclaimed in unison, looking at Tang Nian Nian with eager eyes. Little sister, I'm your biological brother. You can't teach this secret skill to outsiders. You have to teach me. Nian Nian, I'm your good friend. You can't just teach this silly guy and not me. Their reasons were very compelling, each grabbing one of Tang Nian Nian's arms and looking at her expectantly. Tang Nian Nian's ears buzzed, and her head felt heavy. Emile, you teach them. Tang Nian Nian covered her ears and handed this tough task to Emile. Does that mean I'm their master? Emile was eager to try. He really wanted to be a teacher. Yes, as long as they acknowledge you. Tang Nian Nian casually replied, letting these three silly people argue among themselves and leave her alone. Sure enough, by the time they returned to the hotel, the three of them were still debating. In the end, Tang Chongfeng came up with a good idea. They would draw lots to decide how to address him, either as master or junior brother, just those two titles. Zhao Fenghua smiled the whole time and didn't find the three too noisy. She enjoyed listening to the young people chat. It made her feel young again. While they were waiting for the elevator on the first floor, it opened, and Kurt and his group stepped out. Tang Nian Nian stood in front, with Zhao Fenghua behind her. Kurt's group didn't see her. They only noticed Tang Nian Nian. Seeing she was Chinese, they immediately looked down on her and arrogantly stepped out of the elevator. Move aside. Kurt, noticing Tang Nian Nian's beauty, intended to flirt and deliberately bumped into her, trying to take advantage. Tang Nian Nian saw through his intentions, her expression turned cold, and she stepped aside. Kurt missed his target and felt embarrassed, glaring at her angrily as he walked away.
Ouch.
Kurt stumbled out of the hotel and fell to the ground, landing hard. Tang Nian Nian walked back, looking relaxed. Nian Nian, was that you? Tang Jianshu felt a bit worried. The other person was a foreigner. What if he traced it back to his cousin? What about me? A grown man can't walk properly. He deserves to fall. Tang Nian Nian sneered. She had just flicked a small stone. Even Sherlock Holmes couldn't figure it out. How dare a foreigner be so arrogant on Chinese soil? He was asking for trouble. Tang Jianshu didn't say anything more. Nian Nian was much more capable than him. He couldn't help, so it was better to stay quiet. Zhao Fenghua glanced meaningfully at Tang Nian Nian, her lips curling up. This girl really suited her taste. When they reached the third floor and just stepped out of the elevator. Chongfeng, why did you take so long to eat? Mom and Dad were worried and sent me to find you. Tang Chongchuan happened to come out looking for his brother. Seeing Tang Chongfeng was fine, he couldn't help but nag. Zhao Fenghua was taken aback when she saw him. Her feet felt glued to the ground, reluctant to leave. This young boy looked just like her Jinglin. If Jinglin grew up, he would probably look like this, right? Big brother. Tang Chongfeng couldn't help but want to share the good news with his brother, but he thought about the crowded hotel and how if people found out that his little sister had her biological parents in Hong Kong, it might cause trouble. The mainland is currently strict about overseas relations. They might be fine, but his little sister could get into trouble. Tang Chongfeng, who usually doesn't think much, had many thoughts at this moment. He didn't shout loudly, but whispered the good news to Tang Chongchuan. Tang Chongquan's expression became excited as he looked directly at Tang Yinyan, his lips trembling and tears welling in his eyes. Indeed, it was his little sister. She was even more beautiful than when she was a child. Chongfeng, invite your new friend to our room to sit for a while and introduce her to mom and dad. Tang Chongquan suppressed his excitement, speaking calmly, though his voice trembled if you listen closely. I was just thinking of visiting uncle and aunt. Tang Yanyan smiled slightly and followed the Tang brothers to their room. Wait a moment. Zhao Fenghua called out to them, her eyes slightly moist. The more she looked at Tang Chongquan, the more he resembled her son, and she couldn't help but want to ask, Ma'am, is there something you need? Tang Chongquan stopped and noticed Zhao Fenghua, recognizing her face, and his expression changed. This elegant lady looked very much like the woman in a photo his father cherished, a young woman in a qipao, wearing a pearl necklace, very beautiful, holding a baby. His father never said who she was, but Tang Chongquan guessed she must be his grandmother. He had known since he was little that his father was a son of the Tang family, not born of the main wife. So after his grandfather passed away, the main wife didn't take them abroad, but left them in Shanghai. However, his father never spoke about why his grandmother left the Tang family. When Tang Chongquan asked once, his father told him not to bring it up again. The more he looked at Zhao Fenghua, the more he felt she resembled his grandmother, but he couldn't be sure. May I ask what your father's name is? Zhao Fenghua spoke in the Shanghai dialect. My father is Tang Jinglin. Tang Chongquan replied respectfully, feeling increasingly certain. She spoke Shanghai dialect, looked so similar, and her age matched. She was likely his grandmother. On this trip to the mainland, their family would finally reunite. Zhao Fenghua swayed slightly, her expression joyful yet guilty, tears glistening in her eyes as she glanced at Tang Chongquan, then at Tang Chongfeng, and finally at Tang Yinyan. They were all her grandchildren. Indeed, blood ties were strong. The moment she saw these three children, she felt a special closeness, as if heaven had hinted to her. I am your... Zhao Fenghua's voice trembled as she wanted to tell them she was their grandmother, but the words wouldn't come out. She had never raised a son, let alone held her grandchildren. What right did she have to claim them? Chongquan, what are you doing standing there? Has Chongfeng come back? Tang Jinglin came out and saw his eldest son standing in the hallway, seemingly talking to someone. As he spoke and approached, the hallway was a bit dim, so he didn't see Zhao Fenghua or clearly recognize Tang Yinyan, but he felt two intense gazes that he couldn't ignore. Jinglin! Zhao Fenghua called out, her voice trembling, leaning against Cui Jia. She was too excited, and her body couldn't handle it. Miss, you mustn't get too excited. Cui Jia supported her, her tone anxious. Tang Yinyan was starting to untangle this complicated relationship. The fashionable and beautiful old lady was likely her biological grandmother. Moreover, her grandmother didn't seem well, as if she were seriously ill. Finally, Tang Jinglin saw Zhao Fenghua, his expression changing drastically as he turned to leave. Jinglin, I am your mother. Zhao Fenghua cried out, shocked that her son's first reaction to seeing her was to turn away. Ma'am, please don't speak nonsense. My mother has passed away. Tang Jinglin turned back with a grim expression. Though his words were harsh, he couldn't bring himself to meet Zhao Fenghua's gaze. He feared that if he looked too long, he would soften. All these years, he had missed his mother constantly. As a child, his father told him that his mother longed for freedom and abandoned him to live freely abroad. He had hated her for that. Was freedom really that important? Important enough to abandon husband and child? Zhao Fenghua leaned against Cui Jia, crying sadly. She had imagined countless scenarios of meeting her son, but she never expected him not to recognize her. It was all her fault. She couldn't blame her son. Let's talk in the room. Tang Yinyan spoke up, noticing more people peeking around in the hallway, making it inconvenient to talk. Yes, let's go inside to talk. Tang Chongfeng quickly agreed. He had a good impression of Zhao Fenghua, and if she could be his grandmother, he would be very happy. But this wasn't his decision. It required his father's approval. Moreover, it seemed that his father held some resentment towards his grandmother and didn't want to acknowledge her. Only then did Tang Jinglin notice Tang Nianyan, and his heavy heart lightened with joy. He had so much to say, but didn't know where to start. "Dad, let's go inside," Tang Changchuan urged, and Tang Jinglin finally snapped back to reality, nodding repeatedly, "Yes, let's go inside." His gaze remained fixed on Tang Nianyan, unwilling to look away for even a second. His daughter had grown up so beautifully. Old Master Tang had not failed in his promise to raise her well. Mr. Hans wisely returned to his room, as family matters were not appropriate for him to be present. Everyone entered Tang Jinglin and his wife's room, where Mu Xiulian was resting in bed, suffering from a headache again. "Xiulian, Nianyan is here." As soon as Tang Jinglin entered the room, he joyfully shared the good news with his wife. Mu Xiulian, who had been lying there weakly, suddenly perked up, sitting up straight. Upon seeing Tang Nianyan, she gracefully jumped out of bed and rushed to her daughter. "Nianyan, I am your mother." Mu Xiulian tightly grasped her daughter's hand, tears streaming down her face. "Nianyan, I am your big brother." "I am your second brother." Tang Changchuan and his brothers introduced themselves, their eyes red. "Did Du Iluan send a message?" Tang Nianyan asked. "Yes, he's doing well and staying at his uncle's house," Tang Jinglin replied with a smile. Tang Nianyan nodded and looked at Zhao Fenghua, saying, "Why don't you handle her situation first?" "I'm not in a hurry." She needed to confirm if Zhao Fenghua was indeed her biological grandmother. If so, she could provide some spiritual essence to save her life. "You are called Nianyan, right?" "I am your grandmother." Zhao Fenghua had regained her composure. She no longer sought her son's forgiveness. She just wanted to pass her belongings to her grandchildren. In her final moments, being able to see her son, daughter-in-law, and grandchildren, she felt no regrets. "I just met your son too, and we're not familiar," Tang Nianyan said honestly. So she wouldn't get involved in the matter between Tang Jinglin and his mother. Zhao Fenghua couldn't help but laugh. Her granddaughter was truly amusing. "I don't know your father well, because I left him when he was 3, and I haven't seen him since." Zhao Fenghua spoke honestly, and then looked at Tang Jinglin, saying sincerely, "Jinglin, I did abandon you back then. I don't blame you for resenting me. I was too young and impulsive. Plus, your father didn't keep his promise to give me the title of his wife. I waited for him for 4 years." She paused to catch her breath, and Cui Jia looked at her with concern, knowing how hard her mistress had worked alone in a foreign land. Zhao Fenghua sighed and continued, "In the end, I decided to leave him. I wanted to take you with me, but your father disagreed. I didn't fight for you, because I thought it would be better for you to stay with the Tang family. Although your father let me down, he is a good father and will raise you well." After saying so much, Zhao Fenghua was a bit out of breath. Cui Jia gently patted her back. "Miss, take your time. Don't rush." Tang Nianyan handed her a glass of water with a drop of spring water in it. Zhao Fenghua took a sip and found the water especially sweet, feeling much better. "Thank you." Zhao Fenghua expressed her gratitude and began to talk about the past. "After I went abroad, I remarried, but I didn't have any more children. You are my only son. Over the years, I built up quite a bit of wealth. I tried to find out about you but had no news, so I came here myself. Thankfully, fate allowed us to meet." Tang Jinglin pressed his lips together, looking stubborn, but his heart was slowly softening. However, his resentment towards his mother after all these years couldn't be erased quickly. Zhao Fenghua looked sad and said self-deprecatingly, "I don't expect you to accept me. I didn't raise you, so it's understandable if you don't recognize me. I just want to pass my wealth to you. Once the paperwork is done, I'll go back to England and won't disturb your life again. I don't need your money. Keep it for yourself." Tang Jinglin rejected her harshly. When he came to Hong Kong, he brought a large box of gold bars as startup capital to start a trading company. Over the years, things have gone relatively well. While he wasn't rich, he could manage his life. "Young master, the miss is sick. She traveled a long way just to find you." Cui Jia defended her mistress. Even if the miss abandoned the young master back then, it wasn't entirely her fault. After all, Mr. Tang didn't keep his word, promising to marry her, but only making her a concubine. The miss was proud and couldn't tolerate that, so leaving was a normal choice. In recent years, there have been wars and chaos. The miss asked many people but couldn't find any news about you. It's not that she didn't want to look for you. It was truly impossible. Her illness is also due to her heavy thoughts. Cui Jie began to cry as she spoke. She had a deep bond with Zhao Fenghua, and just the thought of her mistress being so ill tore her heart apart. What illness do you have? Tang Jinglin's heart tightened. His tone was still harsh, but his expression showed concern. Zhao Fenghua smiled reassuringly. She felt content. It's nothing serious, just a minor issue. Cui Jie worries too much. Once we return to Hong Kong, we can handle the inheritance paperwork, Zhao Fenghua said lightly about her illness. Tang Jinglin was skeptical. If it were just a minor issue, Cui Jie wouldn't be crying so sadly. It clearly wasn't trivial. He felt conflicted, as if two voices were fighting in his head. Accept her. After all, she is your biological mother. Haven't you missed her for decades? Don't accept her. She abandoned you and enjoyed herself abroad. She doesn't care about you at all. These two voices kept arguing in his mind, making it hard for Tang Jinglin to decide. Jinglin, so many years have passed. Let's not bring up old grievances. You've been dreaming of your mother all these years. Now that you've finally met her, don't be stubborn. Mu Xiulian understood her husband's feelings well. She wanted him to accept Zhao Fenghua, but she also wanted to help him ease into it. Tang Jinglin looked reluctant and said awkwardly, I'm not being stubborn. Mu Xiulian smiled and said to Zhao Fenghua, Mother, when we return to Hong Kong, I'll take you to see a traditional Chinese doctor for your health. Doctors abroad can't compare to those here. Okay, thank you for your concern. Zhao Fenghua admired her daughter-in-law, seeing that she was well-mannered and composed. Let's not be formal with each other. Mother, this is your granddaughter, Tang Mian. We just met. Mu Xiulian introduced her daughter and explained the reason for their separation years ago.
Mian, I'm sorry.
Your father and I had no choice but to leave you in Tang Village. For the past 17 years, we've missed you every moment. Please don't blame us. Mu Xiulian's voice choked up, unable to continue. Her husband had resented her mother-in-law for decades. How could they not feel like cruel parents themselves? The situation back then didn't allow it. Grandpa told me, and I understand. Tang Mian spoke calmly, not showing much excitement. She didn't have a deep emotional bond with her biological parents, but she still felt a sense of closeness due to their blood relation. Grandpa Tang had explained to her several times why her parents left her, and she truly didn't blame them. Over the years, my grandparents have treated me very well, even better than their biological granddaughter. I haven't suffered at all, Tang Mian said. How are your grandparents? Once things settle down, we should go thank them. Tang Jinglin was very grateful to Grandpa and Grandma Tang. Although he left enough money, if they were dishonest people, they might have kept the money and even sold his daughter. Fortunately, he had inquired about Grandpa Tang's character, and everyone he knew praised him as an upright and honorable man. That's why he entrusted his daughter to Grandpa Tang. Grandpa passed away 2 years ago, but Grandma is doing well. You can hear her scolding people from 10 miles away. Mentioning Grandma Tang made Tang Mian smile. Tang Jinglin and his wife could sense that their daughter had a deep bond with the Tang family. While they felt comforted, they also felt a bit sad. If only the chaotic times hadn't separated their family for 17 years, their daughter would have surely been very close to them. Where's your boyfriend, Nian?
How old is he?
Where is he from? Have your parents met him? Mu Xiulian asked a series of questions about Shen Xiao. He's in the army, a deputy regiment leader, 20 years old, from the capital, and his parents have both passed away. Tang Mian answered each question. Although Shen Ziyuan was still alive, in their hearts, he was already gone. She added, Shen Xiao will come over in a few days, and I'll introduce you to him. Your boyfriend's name is Shen Xiao? He's a deputy regiment leader at just 20 years old? Tang Jinglin found it hard to believe. Was his future son-in-law such a high-ranking officer? A 20-year-old deputy regiment leader seemed a bit unbelievable. Yes, he has done a lot and received special promotion. You will understand when you meet him, Tang Nian said, her cold expression softening when she mentioned Xin Xiao. The Tang family noticed this change and felt a pang of reluctance. It seemed that Nian had a very good relationship with Xin Xiao. Sigh. They had just found their daughter, sister, again, and now she was already taken away by a big bad wolf. Fortunately, Xin Xiao had good qualities. He was a 20-year-old deputy regiment leader and an orphan, which meant there wouldn't be any mother-in-law conflicts. Nian's married life should be quite comfortable. Nian, have you started working yet? Tang Jinglin was very curious. Since there were no private companies in the mainland, his daughter must be working in a public institution, but he didn't know her position. Yes, I am a translator for the Shanghai Trade Fair delegation and also responsible for the business of several companies. Tang Nian briefly explained her role. Not only did the Tang family not understand, but Zhao Fenghua was also confused. How could one person be a translator and handle business for several companies? Wasn't that too much for one person? My brother and I represent Chonglong Trading Company. Although this trip is to see you, we also have business to discuss. What do those companies you work with sell? Tang Jinglin asked with a smile, feeling proud. His daughter was so capable, he had every reason to be proud. Hairpins and crafts. These are samples, Tang Nian said, pulling out a few samples from her bag. As soon as they were on the table, they caught the attention of Tang Jinglin and his son. Are these your company's products? They're exquisite. I didn't expect such great craftsmanship and fashion concepts in the mainland. Nian, I want all of these. When can we have them? Tang Chongchuan, who was in charge of the company's market, immediately recognized that the items Nian brought out would definitely appeal to people in Europe and America. He wanted to seize the opportunity and capture the European and American markets. We have already signed a few orders, but you won't receive the goods until the second half of next year at the earliest, Tang Nian replied honestly, not willing to bend the rules for family. However, you probably won't be able to seize the European and American markets. I signed orders worth over $1 million, but you can consider the Southeast Asian market. I can give you a few more samples, and starting a hairpin factory should be no problem. Tang Nian had already thought of a plan. The mainland system was rigid, making many things inconvenient, but Hong Kong was much easier. Once the Pengcheng Special Zone was established, she would let the Tang family move the factory there, where labor was cheap and there were many favorable policies. They would definitely make a lot of money. Tang Chongchuan felt disappointed at first, but after hearing this, a smile appeared on his face, and he gave his sister a thumbs up. Tang Jinglin thought this was a great idea, but he was worried. If you give us samples, will you get into trouble at work? Mu Xiulian immediately became anxious. Maybe we shouldn't start a factory. Our family doesn't need another one. We shouldn't make things difficult for Nian. Tang Chongchuan also realized this and felt guilty. I was too eager. Listening to mother, we won't start the hairpin factory. We'll just buy from Nian's company. Even if it's not until next year, there will still be a market. At worst, they would earn a little less. Nian's safety was the priority. Zhao Fenghua felt relieved. Her children and grandchildren were not greedy. They were all good kids. Tang Nian felt warm inside and grew closer to the Tang family, but she still found it hard to be completely at ease with them after so many years apart. She couldn't be as casually close as Grandma Tang. It's fine. I designed these hairpins and they have nothing to do with my workplace. I can give them to whoever I want, so just take them, Tang Nian said, dropping a bombshell that left the Tang family stunned. Nian was not only a translator and business handler but also a designer. Did she even have time to rest? The first reaction from the Tang family was to feel sorry for her hard work, worrying that she was overexerting herself. Nian, our family is doing well. Your mother and I have saved up your dowry for 17 years. Even if you don't work, you won't have to worry about food and drink. You don't need to work so hard, Tang Jinglin said, his eyes filled with concern and guilt. It was his failure as a father that made his daughter work so hard at such a young age, doing the work of 10 people. No one could handle that. No wonder his daughter had no smile on her face. She looked so mature, probably because she was too tired. Who could work so hard all day and still smile? Everyone else thought the same, feeling guilty, especially when they remembered that while their daughter, sister, was suffering in the mainland, they were living comfortably in Hong Kong. They felt terrible. Little sister, I'll give you all my pocket money. You don't need to go to that awful job anymore, Tang Chongfeng said, his eyes red and voice choked, ready to offer his precious savings, his New Year's money and red envelopes, around 10,000 yuan, which he treasured like his life. Little sister, your job is too hard. Why don't you switch to an easier one? Our family can provide for you, Tang Chongchuan said with concern, wanting to take his sister to the hospital for a checkup right away. Working at such a high intensity every day could wear anyone out. Zhao Fenghua frowned and said firmly, the policies should be more relaxed now. Nian, you should apply for the paperwork. I can use some connections to help you immigrate to my place. I'll let you manage my company. Don't work like a slave for others. The family was talking all at once, leaving no room for Tang Nian to interject. She listened quietly, feeling warmer inside, and her smile grew wider. I own shares in all these companies, so it's like I'm working for myself. Don't worry. Tang Nian had no desire to go abroad, especially to a food desert like the UK. She would definitely go crazy there. She didn't want to go to any other country either. No country had as much delicious food as China. Her stomach was very patriotic and only enjoyed Chinese cuisine. Other countries' food was okay to try occasionally, but she couldn't eat it regularly. Without much effort, she convinced the Tang family and Zhao Fenghua, and she pulled out a few more hairpins, headbands, and some small accessory samples. She had plenty in her space, enough for decades. No matter when women's money was the easiest to earn. These small accessories had low costs and didn't require much technology, mainly relying on design. As long as they could capture a woman's heart, wealth would come rolling in. When we go back, my brother and I will start the factory. You will hold 40% of the shares in this accessory factory as your dowry, Tang Jinglin decided. Tang Chongchuan and his brother had no objections and even thought they should give their sister a bit more shares. I only need 20%, Tang Nian said. She didn't want too much. She was just providing samples and 20% was fair. Just 40%. Your elder brother and second brother won't mind. Tang Jinglin spoke firmly, feeling that the family owed too much to their daughter, and this 40% share was not enough to make up for it. Tang Chongchuan and Tang Chongfeng also expressed their agreement and urged Tang Nian not to refuse. Tang Nian had to accept this heavy gift, but she thought to herself that she would need to provide more samples in the future. I'm going back to my room. I won't come out again before the exhibition. I'll see you at the event. Tang Nian stood up to say goodbye. Staying too long might lead to some minor troubles. There are always people looking for trouble. The Tang family understood her meaning. Although they were reluctant, they did not try to keep her. Tang Chongchuan even offered to walk her to the door, loudly saying, "Thank you, Comrade Tang, for your enthusiastic introduction. I am very interested in your company's products. I will consider it for a few days and then contact you. If you have any questions, feel free to find me. I'm in room 306. Tang Nian replied loudly, her tone very formal. A few foreigners in the hallway glanced at them, but didn't pay much attention. They were at the Canton Fair to source goods, so it was normal to meet mainland exhibitors in advance. Back in her room, Tang Jianshu and Tang Mantong were there. Zhou Guoqing wisely stayed in the room, thinking it was better not to get involved in other people's family matters. Nian, what is your relationship with those people? As soon as Tang Jianshu entered the room, he closed the door and asked in a low voice. He wasn't mistaken. Those people from Hong Kong called her little sister, and she didn't seem angry, which clearly indicated a close relationship. But how could Nian, who grew up in Tang Village, be connected to people from Hong Kong? The Tang family had no relatives in Hong Kong. Even tracing back 38 generations, they couldn't find any connection. Third brother, I'm not my parents' biological child.
Tang Nian spoke hastily.
Since Tang Jianshu was discreet, it was fine to tell him. Tang Jianshu was shocked, struggling to comprehend how Nian could not be the biological child of Uncle Manjin. At that time, my sister-in-law gave birth to a stillborn. Just when Nian's biological parents were going to the other side, they couldn't take the newborn with them, so they entrusted her to my father. Nian's name was also given by her biological parents. Tang Mantong recounted the past, but was also curious about how his niece had contacted her biological parents. Tang Nian secretly felt relieved that her name was chosen by her real parents. Otherwise, she would have been called Tang Qijin. She was born weighing 7 Jin and 2 Liang, and if her grandfather had named her, it would definitely have been Tang Qijin. Tang Jianshu took a while to regain his composure, swallowing hard as he asked, "Was that man at the restaurant your biological brother?" "Yes, my second brother. The one in the hallway is my elder brother, and the elderly lady dining with us is my biological grandmother." It was quite a coincidence that our family was reunited today. Tang Nian felt a bit emotional. In her previous lives, Zhao Fenghua never appeared and never recognized Tang Jinglin, likely because she couldn't endure it and passed away early. Zhao Fenghua's temperament was somewhat to her liking. Leaving her son to go abroad couldn't entirely be blamed on her. She thought that if her biological grandfather were a man indulging in vices, Zhao Fenghua would never have left her son behind. Although her grandfather had some flaws, he was still a responsible father who raised Tang Jinglin well. Zhao Fenghua's decision to leave her son was correct, but due to the turbulent times, no one expected the mother and son to be separated for so many years. Tang Jianshu swallowed again, suddenly feeling that his cousin seemed much more impressive. Many things that he couldn't understand before now had answers. Uncle Air never let Nian do farm work or household chores. As a rural girl, Nian truly had never touched a drop of water. No family raised their daughters like this. Only Uncle Air and Aunt Air did. Uncle Air often said that Nian's good life was in the city, and she didn't need to learn rural work. He even found her a great master to secretly learn many skills, which must have been resources left by her biological parents. 17 years ago, during the famine in the village, when the bark and roots on the mountain were all gone, Tang Jianshu, though young, still had some memories. One night, he cried from hunger, and there was nothing to eat at home. Uncle Air brought a sack of sweet potatoes, fine bran, and a few pounds of brown rice, which saved their family. At that time, it was also when Nian came home. His family and Uncle Air's family survived the famine, thanks to Nian's biological parents. No wonder Uncle Air and Aunt Air treated Nian much better than they did with the other children. It was a life-saving grace. Tang Jianshu connected all the dots and finally understood everything. He looked at Tang Nian with pity. If it weren't for the chaotic times, this girl could have lived a life of luxury. Even though Uncle Air and Aunt Air loved Nian dearly, they couldn't provide her with a good material life. Nian was actually suffering in Tang village. "Why are you looking at me? Don't tell your parents about this. They can't keep a secret." Tang Nian rolled her eyes, her gaze making her want to hit someone. "I know, I won't tell anyone." Tang Jianshu understood the gravity of the situation. If people found out about Nian's true identity, it would surely cause big trouble. He then asked Nian, "Are you planning to go to Hong Kong?" During this trip to Yangcheng, he had gained a lot of insight and heard many things about Hong Kong. There, people didn't worry about food. As long as they were willing to work hard, they could earn enough to eat well, enjoy meat and milk daily, and buy new clothes often. It was like paradise. If Nian chose Hong Kong, it was only natural. Who wouldn't want to live a good life? Why would I go there? It's such a small place. Overcrowded. Tang Nian looked disgusted. She had no interest in living in Hong Kong. She had often traveled there for business. While the economy was indeed developed, the city was also cramped. The restaurants were so small that it was hard to turn around, and hotel rooms were tiny, just like a small life. It was too difficult for ordinary people to live there, except for the wealthy. After all, rich people can live comfortably anywhere. However, in a few years, She planned to buy property in Hong Kong and invest in stocks, selling the property at a peak time. It would be easy money. Are you really not going? Tang Jianshu felt relieved but also disappointed. He didn't want to part with his cousin but hoped she could live a good life and didn't need to suffer in the village. Are you deaf? Can't you understand human language? Tang Nian was annoyed and slapped him lightly, frustrated that he kept asking despite her clear refusal. The slap made Tang Jianshu's head buzz, but he foolishly smiled, feeling completely at ease. With just one day left until the Canton Fair officially opened, all the exhibitors were excited, looking forward to the event. In the past 2 days, Tang Nian and Tang Jinglin's family had met several times, but it was always in front of many people. Zhao Fenghua also didn't close the door to chat. Another day passed, and the fair finally opened. The exhibitors entered the exhibition hall in an orderly manner. Tang Nian and her family had set everything up a day in advance. Her assigned booth was in a corner, a spot that was hard to see even when standing on tiptoe, and it was small, barely fitting 4 or 5 people. Tang Nian asked Tang Jianshu and Zhou Guiqing to wait at the booth while she took on the role of translator, feeling she shouldn't take a salary without contributing. Tang Nian helped introduce some foreign merchants to products from other companies and even secured a few orders. Her throat felt dry from talking, but none of the orders were for her hairpin or craft factories. Tang Jianshu and the others were getting restless, watching other manufacturers attract crowds of foreign merchants. They felt envious and worried that they might leave the exhibition without any orders, which would mean they couldn't participate in future events. We can't just sit here and wait. We need to take the initiative. Jianshu, can you speak English? Zhou Guiqing couldn't sit still and decided to go out for a walk. The morning was almost over, and they couldn't waste the entire day like this. Tang Mantong thought the same. Although the trade fair lasted nearly a month, the busiest days for foreign merchants were these few days. He hated to waste even an hour. I learned a few phrases from Nian, but I'm not good at it, Tang Jianshu said, feeling a bit confused. He only knew basic phrases like hello, goodbye, and good morning.
Teach us.
Mantong and I will go attract some foreigners. We can't just wait around. How will we get any orders like this? Zhou Guiqing's competitive spirit was ignited. Although the hairpin factory had no shortage of domestic orders and foreign orders were lined up until next year, he didn't want to be laughed at for leaving the trade fair empty-handed. He couldn't afford to lose face. Tang Jianshu wrote down a few English phrases he knew and translated them into Chinese on a piece of paper. Hello, welcome, good morning, goodbye. Zhou Guiqing and Tang Mantong picked up the phrases quickly. Even though their English was basic, they managed to learn it in a short time. English isn't that hard. It's even easier than Wenzhou dialect. Let's go attract customers while you wait here. The two of them felt confident, straightened their clothes, and walked off proudly to find customers. Tang Jianshu patiently waited for customers, laying out all the samples on the table. Although it was Zhou Guiqing's first time at the trade fair, he had a keen eye from his past experiences. He could gauge a person's wealth and true intentions just by their clothing and expressions. He and Tang Mantong focused on the craft factory booths which had similar clients, and they split up to cover more ground. After the foreign merchants left their booth, Zhou Guiqing approached them, smiling widely and enthusiastically saying, "Hello, welcome. I'm from the Jilly factory, come here." Using his broken English, Zhou Guiqing managed to bring several foreign merchants to their booth. The merchants didn't fully understand him, but Zhou Guiqing's enthusiasm and gestures, along with some hairpin samples, caught their attention. When they saw the samples on the table, the merchants' eyes lit up, repeatedly saying good. Yes, good, very good. Zhou Guiqing couldn't stop smiling and kept giving thumbs up, indicating that his products were the best at the fair. Even though he didn't understand their words, he knew they were very satisfied, and he felt confident that they would close the deal. Using their basic English and gestures, he and Tang Jianshu successfully negotiated the deal. Tang Jianshu went to find Shengguan Jing to help sign the contract. Is Tang Nian not here? Shengguan Jing was surprised. How did these two, who barely knew English, manage to secure a deal?
She's busy.
Comrade Shengguan, Please help us sign this contract, Zhou Guiqing said cheerfully. Although it was just over 600,000 in orders, he felt a huge sense of accomplishment and increased confidence. Tang Nian was managing too many factories alone, and he couldn't rely on her for everything. Sheng Guanjing took out the contract and communicated with the foreign merchants. They had no issues with the price but were concerned about the delivery time. I'm sorry, but we already have many clients with large orders, and delivery is scheduled for the second half of next year, Sheng Guanjing replied calmly. The merchants were unhappy but had no choice but to agree. They had visited all the booths at the trade fair and couldn't find hairpins as beautiful as theirs. Even if delivery was next year, they had to accept it. Once the contract was signed, business started pouring in like a tide. Tang Mantong also brought in a few foreign merchants, and the three of them were busy, with Sheng Guanjing coming over to help. With her guidance, their English improved rapidly, and they progressed from broken English to full conversations. Tang Nian finished her tasks and brought back a few foreign merchants. When she learned that Tang Mantong and the others had secured over 200,000 in orders on their own, she praised them highly. On the first day of the trade fair, they achieved great results, signing over 400,000 in orders. Although it wasn't the highest among all exhibitors, it was the highest for craft products. The delivery for the craft and hairpin factories was already scheduled for the year after next. The trade fair had just begun, and Tang Nian was confident they could secure over 1 million in orders, ensuring that both factories wouldn't have to worry for 3 years. On the third day, the exhibition center was even livelier, with more foreign merchants. Tang Nian not only helped her own factory secure hundreds of thousands in orders, but also helped other manufacturers in Huqing bring in over 1 million in orders. The big factories in Huqing, which had looked down on her on the train, now respected her and felt guilty, realizing that their narrow-mindedness was no match for a young girl's broad vision. Tang Nian didn't care. They were irrelevant to her. She had just finished translating for a group of Middle Eastern clients and secured an order for agricultural machinery. Her throat felt like it was on fire, but that wasn't the worst part. The strong perfume from the clients was giving her a headache. She waved her hand to fan some air, but it didn't help. The exhibition center was crowded, and foreigners loved to wear perfume, creating a strange mix of scents. It was not a pleasant smell, and Tang Nian's sensitive nose made it worse. If it weren't for the thrill of making money, she would have left. Comrade Tang, are you feeling unwell? A staff member from the agricultural machinery factory noticed her pale face and asked with concern. I'm a bit stuffy. Their perfume is too strong, Tang Nian replied, waving her hand again. The Middle Eastern clients had already left, and it was now the lunch break, with most foreign merchants back at their hotels. I'm going outside for some fresh air. Tang Nian strode out, needing to breathe fresh air. She stepped outside the exhibition center to a flower bed to enjoy the fragrance of the flowers, but after just a moment, she was interrupted by loud noises. Darn it! What bad luck! A somewhat familiar voice shouted in English, followed by a woman's apologetic tone and a child's crying. I'm sorry, let me clean that up for you. The child didn't see. I'm really sorry. The woman's voice was almost in tears. She hadn't noticed, and her child bumped into this foreigner. The child was holding a sticky candy painting, which got stuck to the foreigner's clothes. What a mess. Get lost, yellow-skinned pig. Kurt irritably pushed the woman away and kicked at the crying child. His companions just watched, amused, thinking that a kick wouldn't kill anyone, and it was good for Kurt to vent his anger. Don't hit my child. I will bow and apologize. The woman hurriedly hugged her child and was about to kneel down to apologize, but she was stopped halfway. It was Tang Nian. Don't bow to foreigners. Tang Nian's voice was cold. Even if the child accidentally bumped into someone, an apology was enough. She shouldn't kneel down. Moreover, this foreigner was speaking too rudely. He deserved to be punished. Tang Nian clenched her fists, but knew that this foreign man couldn't die in China. She recognized him as the rude guy from the elevator, the one she had taught a lesson with a stone. If he hadn't learned his lesson, she wouldn't hold back this time. How much is the shirt? I'll pay. Tang Nian asked in fluent English, her tone firm but respectful. Kurt recognized her too, his gaze lewd as he looked her up and down, saying something offensive. "This shirt costs $1,000. Can you afford it? If you're willing to spend the night with me, I might be generous." His companions burst into laughter, looking at Tang Nian with mocking eyes, thinking she would definitely agree. Many Chinese women would do anything to go abroad, even willing to be with black men. They seemed as cheap as prostitutes. "You say this shirt is $1,000. What brand is it? Do you have a receipt?" "Sir, this is China, not your country. You can't just extort people here." Tang Nian's gaze turned colder, marking another point against him. "Extort you? Nonsense. This shirt is from a big brand, one you could never afford." Kurt was a bit embarrassed and angry because he had only paid $30 for the shirt. It was just a cheap brand. What happened? The exhibition manager arrived with several armed soldiers. The area around the fair was filled with soldiers to protect foreign merchants and prevent any trouble. Tang Nian briefly explained, "This child accidentally bumped into this gentleman. The child's mother has already apologized, but this gentleman is being aggressive and demanding the mother kneel. I couldn't stand by, so I intervened and offered to pay for his shirt, but he is asking for $1,000. I'm currently discussing it with him." The manager's expression turned serious as he spoke with Kurt for a few minutes, but Kurt remained stubborn, insisting on the $1,000. "Sir, you need to provide a receipt to prove this shirt is worth $1,000. The manager was getting impatient. While foreign currency is important, there's no need to be overly polite with unreasonable foreigners. They needed to see some consequences. At the manager's signal, the armed soldiers suddenly pulled their guns, the sound startling Kurt and his friends, making their faces change in fear. Only then did they realize they were in China, on someone else's turf. "Forget it. I'm magnanimous and won't argue with a woman." Kurt found a way to back down, glaring at Tang Nian as he left with his companions. The child's mother thanked her through tears, clearly relieved. "Take your child home." Tang Nian's voice remained cold, but the mother and child felt she was particularly kind, as she was the only one who stood up for them when they were most desperate. Another day ended. Tang Nian's throat was hoarse, and her legs were sore. She had hardly sat down all day, constantly introducing products to foreign merchants. If her translation pay wasn't enough, she wouldn't accept it. At 5 in the afternoon, the exhibition ended, and everyone returned to the hotel to rest. There were still 2 days left for the exhibition, and this year's orders were significantly more than the first half of the year. Everyone was tired but happy. As long as they could generate foreign currency, the hard work was worth it. As soon as Tang Nian arrived at the hotel, she saw Xin Xiao waiting at the entrance and ran over happily. "Nian." Xin Zhao's stern expression softened immediately. If they weren't in public, he would have embraced her and kissed her. "How many days off did you take?" 3 days. "Have you contacted them?" Them referred to Tang Jinglin and the others, so they had to be careful when speaking outside. "I've contacted them. Let me take you to meet them." Tang Nian led him to meet Tang Jinglin's family and Zhao Fenghua. Over the past 2 days, she had spent a lot of time with Zhao Fenghua and learned about the exciting life she had lived over the decades. After separating from her grandfather, she took a large sum of money abroad. As a beautiful Chinese woman in that era, it took more than just courage to venture out. Zhao Fenghua not only lived well but also married a marquis, successfully entering the European aristocracy and establishing a luxury brand, gaining both fame and fortune. Zhao Fenghua's luxury brand would remain strong even decades later, although it would eventually be owned by other companies. Tang Nian thought Zhao Fenghua's life was truly remarkable, free and unrestrained, not bound by societal norms, a truly carefree woman. As for not being able to accompany her son as he grew up, while it was a regret, it couldn't be said that Zhao Fenghua was selfish. Tang Jinglin still had his father. Tang Nian first took Xin Xiao to meet Zhao Fenghua. Zhao Fenghua had only attended the exhibition for the first 2 days and hadn't returned since. She had come to the mainland mainly to find her son, and now that her goal was achieved, she felt content. In the room, beside Sister Cui, there was Mr. Hans. Tang Nian knew this old man was Zhao Fenghua's admirer. It was said that her grandmother was impressive, not only having won the heart of the old marquis, but also having a loyal admirer like Mr. Hans, who had waited for her for decades. Mr. Hans was not an ordinary person either. His family business was quite successful, and he himself was a prosperous businessman with countless assets. Even though he was older, he didn't lack for young and beautiful women. Yet, Mr. Hans was devoted to Zhao Fenghua, waiting for her without regret for decades. Nian, is this your boyfriend? Zhao Fenghua recognized Shen Xiao at a glance. She had seen his photo. Although he was a bit tanned, his features were handsome, tall, and had a cold demeanor. He looked like a spirited young man. Zhao Fenghua actually liked this type of boy. She wasn't fond of men with very fair skin. Tang Jinglin's father stood out among many suitors because he was not a pretty boy. He spent years running a business outside, had dark skin, thick eyebrows, and big eyes, which gave him a heroic air that Zhao Fenghua liked. "Hello, Grandma." Shen Xiao greeted respectfully. "Hello, Mr.
Ans, Elo, Kuiji.
Shen Xiao greeted each of them. "Please sit down, Chui, go make some tea." Zhao Fenghua felt much better. After drinking the spiritual spring that Tang Nian gave her, her health improved significantly. Chui Jie made tea and handed it to Shen Xiao with a warm smile. Her gaze was particularly kind. She had never married and had no children, and all her relatives were gone. She felt about Tang Nian like a grandmother would feel about her own granddaughter. Now, when she looked at Shen Xiao, it was like looking at her own grandson-in-law. "Thank you, Chui Jie." Shen Xiao took the tea and placed it on the table, then took out a gift, a beautiful red jade, the size of a fist, bright red and dazzling, which he obtained during a mission in a neighboring country. "Grandma, this is a gift for our first meeting." Shen Xiao handed the red jade to Zhao Fenghua with both hands. Ever since he learned that Nian liked jade, most of his recent missions had been in the neighboring country to collect jade. Zhao Fenghua's eyes lit up as she held the red jade, reluctant to let it go. "How did you know I like shiny things? It's so beautiful." "Xiao Shen, your taste is really good. Thank you." She loved all kinds of gemstones and anything shiny. She liked anything valuable. Nian also liked shiny things. Shen Xiao smiled, noticing that Nian not only looked like her grandmother, but also shared her interests. Zhao Fenghua smiled brightly. Although she was over 60, she had a youthful demeanor. "My granddaughter is just like me. Nian, I've collected many gemstones, and I'll give them all to you in the future." "Okay." Tang Nian accepted, without hesitation. Zhao Fenghua was even happier. After playing with the red jade for a while, she asked Chui Jie to put it away. Shen Xiao also brought a gift for Chui Jie, a gold bracelet made of pure gold, which Tang Nian had just taken out from her space. Chui Jie didn't like gemstones. Like Tang Laodai, she preferred gold. "Oh, I have a gift too." "Thank you, Xiao Shen." Chui Jie liked her gift very much. It was heavy and had a good weight. Mr. Hans also had a gift, a jade snuff bottle. This old man liked collecting little trinkets and was very pleased with his gift. "Xiao Shen, please accept this." Zhao Fenghua took out a thick red envelope containing $5,000. For their first meeting, the elders should give a gift. Mr. Hans also gave a red envelope, and Chui Jie gave one too, though the amount was smaller, it was still significant. The 3 red envelopes added up to over $10,000. A few days ago, they had given Tang Nian such a thick red envelope that combined, it was enough to make them wealthy. After receiving the red envelope, Shen Xiao immediately gave it to Tang Nian. He had gotten used to letting her manage the money he earned. Zhao Fenghua and Chui Jie exchanged pleased glances. This was better than 90% of men. "Nian, aren't you going to my company? I really need you to manage it." Zhao Fenghua was not ready to give up. Since she got sick, she had handed the company over to others, but she wanted to pass it on to her granddaughter. She believed her grandsons, Tang Chongquan and Tang Chongfeng, could make their own way. But she wanted to leave the company and the bulk of her assets to her granddaughter. Although she loved all three grandchildren, Zhao Fenghua felt a deeper connection to Tang Nian. Perhaps it was fate. The first time she saw Tang Nian, she felt an instant closeness. Grandma, I don't want to go abroad for now. Let my brother manage your company. He is capable enough, Tang Nian advised. Even though Zhao Fenghua had her spiritual spring and wouldn't die young, her health was fundamentally damaged, and she couldn't recover to her former self. She needed to take it slow, and at her age, she shouldn't overwork herself. Zhao Fenghua stopped insisting and agreed with Tang Nian's plan. When I go back, I'll hand over the company. I want to spend my remaining time in Hu City, returning to my roots. When I was young, I couldn't understand this feeling, but now that I'm older, I finally get it, yet time flies so fast. Zhao Fenghua sighed, looking pensive. In her youth, she longed for freedom and wanted to see the world. She even looked down on those who stayed in their hometown like a frog in a well, lacking any experience. Back then, she and Tang Jinglin's father separated partly for this reason. She urged him to move the business abroad, as the domestic situation was chaotic, with warlords fighting and foreigners dominating the land, making it unsuitable for business. But he firmly opposed it, insisting that the Tang family would rather die on their homeland than live on foreign soil. Their arguments grew heated, and their relationship soured. Zhao Fenghua sighed softly, now understanding that man a bit better. But the Tang family eventually went abroad. She had seen the children of the big house there. Although they lived comfortably, it was nowhere near the luxury the Tang family once had. The proud lady of the big house fell ill and passed away within 2 years after moving abroad. At that time, she had already established herself abroad and helped the big house, learning that her son had been left behind in Hu City and was not taken along. She also found out that the stubborn man refused to bow to the Japanese, leading to the destruction of his factory. Heartbroken, he arranged for the inheritance before he died, telling the lady of the big house to take the children abroad for safety. Zhao Fenghua could almost see the serious man before her, saying harsh words. Once you leave, don't come back. He truly cursed her. She hadn't set foot back home in decades. Perhaps this was her punishment from heaven? When I was boarding, he rushed over to try to keep me from leaving, saying I would definitely regret it. I told him I would never regret it. Zhao Fenghua said this, without thinking. Although she didn't name him, everyone knew she was referring to Tang Nian's grandfather. Do you regret it now? Tang Nian asked. Zhao Fenghua shook her head and said softly, no regrets. If I hadn't left, I would have just been his kept canary. I loved him, but I loved freedom even more. Even though she faced many hardships in the first few years abroad and almost lost her life, she never regretted it. She would rather face the storms outside than live in a warm, safe golden cage as a docile canary without freedom. Besides freedom, I also love money.
Seriously echo.
Both freedom and money are essential and cannot be discarded. Zhao Fenghua paused, tears of laughter in her eyes, and gently patted Tang Nian's head. I think the same way. That's why when I left your grandfather, I took a large sum of money. She had spent her best years with that man and even bore him a son. Asking for money was not unreasonable. Zhao Fenghua didn't think she was materialistic. She was just more practical and loved herself a bit more. Zhao Fenghua's spirits were much better than before, and she was in a lively mood, sharing many past stories with Tang Nian. Mr. Hans listened with great interest, but he was called away by his assistant to handle business. Will you marry Mr. Hans? Tang Nian asked directly. She had a good impression of Mr. Hans and didn't mind the old woman's late romance. Forget it, I don't know how much longer I can hold on, Zhao Fenghua replied, shaking her head, her smile fading a bit. She had been involved with 3 men. She was with old Master Tang because, among many suitors, he had the deepest feelings for her, the best character, and was the most handsome. She married the old Marquis because he was good-looking, devoted to her, and came from a respectable family. With the title of Marquis, she could enter the European aristocracy and earn money from wealthy people. She liked both men, but she also sought their status and wealth. With her talent and looks, she could never marry a poor, powerless man. She had to look up when choosing a partner. However, when she was with these two men, her status and wealth were vastly different from theirs. She had to find ways to please them, which, while not difficult for her, was a bit exhausting. Only Mr. Hans knew her when she was less powerful, but their relationship became close after she achieved success. Their interactions were casual and relaxed, which she enjoyed. If it weren't for her illness, she would definitely marry Hans. Sister Cui, who had been silent, urged, "Miss, ever since you returned, you've improved a lot. I believe it's the Bodhisattva's blessing. The temple I visited said it was very effective. You will get better." "Fool, does the Bodhisattva have time for me? You often pray to Bodhisattvas abroad. What good does it do?" Zhao Fenghua chuckled and rolled her eyes. Sister Cui pouted. "The foreign Bodhisattvas aren't effective. They must be from our own land to work. Foreigners believe in Jesus. Each place's Bodhisattva nurtures its people." Tang Nianyan couldn't help but smile at Sister Cui's quirky nature. She took out a large glass jar filled with pills she had made overnight. They were just flower balls mixed with spring water, enough for a year's supply. "This pill is very powerful, made by an old Chinese doctor. The one you took a few days ago was this. It worked well, right?" Tang Nianyan handed the jar to Sister Cui, instructing, "One a day. The doctor said you'll get better after finishing this jar." "Miss, the pill you gave her the other day was actually medicine? No wonder her appetite improved, and she slept well at night. Our doctors are truly skilled. Those foreign ones can't compare," Sister Cui said happily, taking the jar. Zhao Fenghua had visibly improved in recent days, and Sister Cui treated the jar with great care, afraid of dropping it. Zhao Fenghua looked surprised. She felt the change in her body and initially thought it was just her good mood. She didn't realize it was the miraculous medicine her granddaughter found. "Thank you, dear." Zhao Fenghua's voice choked with emotion. She felt unworthy of such kindness. She hadn't raised these children but was enjoying their filial piety. "You're welcome, we're family," Tang Nianyan replied casually, as if it were no trouble at all. Zhao Fenghua showed signs of fatigue. She pulled Shen Xiao to say goodbye and went to visit the Tang family. Mr. and Mrs. Tang were pleased with Shen Xiao. Although he was a bit dark, he was handsome and had a serious demeanor. The way he looked at their daughter showed he loved her deeply. After a deep conversation with Shen Xiao, the couple was even more satisfied. Although he didn't talk much, he made every word count and was very understanding. He even brought gifts from afar. Mr. Tang received a Qing dynasty brush holder, Mrs. Mu got a purple jade piece, and the gifts for Tang Chongchuan and Tang Chongfeng were the same, a sharp dagger with a jeweled sheath. Thus, Shen Xiao received many red envelopes, with Mr. Tang's being the largest, followed by Tang Chongchuan's, and Tang Chongfeng's was slightly smaller. "Brother-in-law, can you fly and walk on walls?
Can you teach me?"
Tang Chongfeng quickly changed his tone, calling Shen Xiao brother-in-law and making him very happy. His gaze became much friendlier. "I know a little, but you're too old to learn," Shen Xiao replied honestly. Tang Chongfeng puffed out his cheeks, feeling a bit discouraged, but quickly perked up and asked, "How old were you when you learned? Did you practice on plum blossom poles?" Shen Xiao shook his head and said, "I learned from wolves and monkeys." Having lived with a pack of wolves since childhood, climbing mountains was a necessary skill. He had also made friends with wild monkeys and learned to swing on vines, which he mastered over time. Tang Chongfeng blinked, his eyes showing naive confusion. "Brother-in-law, are you just making excuses not to teach me?" Tang Chongfeng's cheeks puffed up even more, upset that Shen Xiao was giving such a silly reason, one that even a kindergarten child wouldn't believe. Did he really look that foolish? "It's true. Shen Xiao was raised by wolves and lived in the mountains for years," Tang Nianyan chimed in, explaining why Shen Xiao was raised by wolves. The Tang family was stunned, looking at Shen Xiao with growing sympathy. Especially Mrs. Mu, who had tears in her eyes. She reached out to pat Shen Xiao's head but couldn't reach him due to their height difference, so she settled for patting his shoulder. "Child, things will get better." Mrs. Mu decided to treat Shen Xiao like her own son from now on. This child had suffered under a stepmother and had never felt the warmth of a family. If she treated him well, he would be kinder to Nian Nian. Shen Xiao felt a bit awkward, not used to such sudden affection, but he could sense Mrs. Mu's sincerity. Nian Nian, once the Canton Fair is over, we'll be heading back to Hong Kong. I don't know when we'll see each other again. Mr. Tang's eyes began to redden. He had finally found his daughter, but soon they would part again, and he felt reluctant. The policies will loosen up. There will be many chances to meet, Tang Nian reassured him. She didn't feel too sad. Her feelings for the Tang family weren't that deep, and she knew that in at most 2 years, there would be communication across the strait. In the afternoon, Shen Xiao stayed at the hotel to rest while Tang Nian went to the exhibition hall. Upon arriving at the hall, she saw Director Jie and several men talking at the entrance. They all looked serious and were arguing.
Let's just go with the foreign price.
If we don't agree, we won't meet the sales target for this fair. No way, that price only covers costs. We won't make any profit. Is our labor really that worthless? But if the goods pile up in the warehouse, they will only lose value. Those foreigners are taking advantage of this to lower the price. Darn it, they clearly promised a large quantity of fabric earlier, and now they're backing out. I really want to beat them up. Don't act on impulse. We can't blame the foreigners entirely. They only spoke verbally and didn't sign a contract. We should blame our own inexperience. I'll consult the leaders again about what to do with this batch of fabric. Director Jie calmed the angry men. His steady voice seemed to have a soothing effect, and the men gradually calmed down. We were indeed too eager and fell for these foreigners' tricks. At worst, we can consider this a loss, but at least we broke even. We'll learn from this and never trust these foreigners' nonsense again. Although the men spoke casually, their expressions were still filled with anger. It wasn't easy. This large batch of fabric was produced by workers working overtime, all to export and earn foreign currency for the country. Now, not only were they unable to make money, but they also incurred labor costs, leaving them too embarrassed to return to Shanghai. Tang Nian listened for a while and moved closer, noticing the name tags these men wore, all representing textile factories from Shanghai. Before the liberation of Shanghai, it was a hub for the textile industry, and it still is. These textile factories had clearly been tricked by the foreigners. What happened? Tang Nian asked as she approached.
Có mát tang.
The representatives from the textile factories greeted her warmly, clearly impressed by her recent performance. They explained the situation. At the spring trade fair, the fabric from Shanghai's textile factories was very popular, resulting in many orders. Several foreign merchants even expressed their intention to return for the autumn trade fair, hoping for more production. We took them seriously and rushed back to work overtime. But when the fabric was ready, these foreigners changed their tune, claiming that the batch ordered at the spring fair didn't sell well abroad and that they couldn't bear to let us lose money. They offered a price that only covered costs, which we obviously disagreed with. This price barely covers costs, and we can't even recover labor expenses. We've worked hard for half a year for nothing. Tang Nian frowned slightly and asked, why didn't you sign contracts with the foreign merchants at the spring trade fair? If these foreigners wanted the goods, they should have signed contracts and paid a deposit. That's basic business practice. The men looked guilty and replied, we suggested signing a contract, but the foreigners claimed they didn't have enough money for a deposit and promised that the fabric would definitely sell well. They gave us many reasons and tricked us. I heard that foreigners are very honest in business. Who knew they could be so shameless? Another man said angrily. Tang Nian rolled her eyes. These men were too naive. There's no business without deceit. What businessman would strictly follow the rules? This isn't just about the foreigners being dishonest. It's about your own foolishness.
Tang Nian spoke balloonly.
From the perspective of domestic manufacturers, it was true that the foreigners were shameless, but in business, deception is common. Everyone wants to buy low and sell high to maximize profits. Moreover, the foreigners had some integrity. The price they offered at least covered costs, preventing significant losses for the factories. If this fabric wasn't sold to the foreigners, It would just pile up in the warehouse, taking up space and becoming worthless over time. If she hadn't come, the fabric would likely end up being sold to foreign merchants at a low price. In her previous life, she had read that in the early days of reform and opening up, many Chinese businesses suffered losses in dealings with foreign merchants due to ignorance. The men before her had made the same naive mistake. The men, old enough to be Tang Niannian's fathers, felt embarrassed and lowered their heads in shame. Miss Tang was right. They had indeed been foolish. They had caused significant losses for the country and now wished someone would give them a good beating to feel better. Tang Niannian inquired about the price of the fabric. To make a profit, it needed to be sold at 1.5 yuan per meter, but the foreigners offered only 1.35 yuan per meter, just enough to break even. Which foreign merchants are involved? As soon as Tang Niannian asked, the men's faces changed, and they turned to look ahead, their expressions filled with anger. A few foreigners swaggered over, deliberately walking in front of them, loudly saying, "Have you made your decision? If you don't sell us the fabric, it will just rot in your warehouse. Don't let small losses lead to bigger ones. We will consider it carefully." Tang Niannian replied firmly, "The price will only go lower, not higher. You really don't need to think it over. Who else can you sell to besides us?" The foreigners laughed heartily and swaggered into the exhibition hall, confident that the fabric wouldn't sell elsewhere because they had already negotiated with other merchants to drive the price down. They planned to buy the entire batch and split the profits. They loved sourcing from China, where prices were low and people were easy to deceive. The batch of fabric from the spring trade fair had sold out abroad, making them a fortune. This new batch was larger and cheaper, promising even greater profits. As the foreigners walked away, dreaming of riches, the representatives from the textile factories were furious, their faces turning pale, fists clenched, wishing they could confront the foreigners. But they couldn't act impulsively. They had to think about the bigger picture. Don't worry. The trade fair isn't over yet. These foreigners might change their minds and offer a higher price. Tang Niannian tried to reassure them. The men forced a smile. Such words wouldn't convince even a 3-year-old. If they were the foreigners, they would already feel secure and wouldn't raise the price. Director Jie's eyes flickered as he suddenly recalled the strange deaths of Su Laifeng and the others, and his heart raced. Comrade Tang is right. There may be a turnaround. A miracle could happen tomorrow. Director Jie smiled, saying something optimistic, but the others remained unconvinced, thinking Tang Niannian and Director Jie were just trying to comfort them, not believing in any miracles. After the afternoon exhibition ended, Tang Niannian returned to the hotel, accompanied by Shun Xiao for dinner. Emile and Pova were considerate and didn't follow them, opting to go out on their own. After dinner, they returned to the hotel and went to work in the space. As night fell, the city of Yangqing quieted down and the hotel was silent, with lights out in every room, most guests fast asleep. Tang Niannian and Xin Xiao changed into costumes. She was dressed as the Virgin Mary, while Xin Xiao was the Grim Reaper, one in white and the other in black. She even found a pair of feathered wings, having collected many props from the film city during the apocalypse. She wasn't sure if the Virgin Mary had wings, but since angels in the West did, she figured it was fine to wear them. They first planned to deal with the foreigners from the textile factories. She had already learned their room numbers during the day and was ready to confront them one by one. "You scare them first, no need to speak, just put the scythe to their necks." Tang Niannian whispered instructions. Xin Xiao couldn't speak English, and if he did, it would give them away. She handed him a black scythe, also a prop from the film city. It looked scary but was actually made of plastic and couldn't harm anyone. Xin Xiao held a scythe, dressed in a black robe and wearing a skull mask, while Tang Niannian wore a white robe with wings on her back. She had done her makeup to look like a saint and wore a golden wig, making her look quite convincing. They first went to Lucien's room. Lucien was the leader of the foreigners who plotted against the textile factory, and all the bad ideas came from him. The door was locked tight, and they could hear snoring from inside. Tang Niannian pulled out a wire and easily opened the door. The two quickly slipped into the room. Tang Niannian took out ice packs from her space and placed them on Lucien's bed. The ice packs released a chilling air, and soon Lucien curled up, mumbling and reaching for the blanket. But he found it missing. Tang Nian had already moved it. A few minutes later, Lucien felt even colder, as if he were in a frozen wasteland, shivering uncontrollably. He sensed someone nearby, and a chill ran down his neck. Startled, he opened his eyes. At first, he looked confused, but he quickly closed his eyes to go back to sleep. However, just a few seconds later, he opened his eyes again, fully awake, because he saw Death. Death stood by his bed, the scythe swinging toward his neck, ready to take his life. Lucien's nerves tightened, and fear reached its peak. He wanted to scream for help, but no sound came out. His throat felt blocked, and the room grew colder. He remembered his grandmother saying that when someone is about to die, they feel colder and see death. No, he was only 39. He didn't want to die. Desperate tears streamed down Lucien's face as he looked at Death, hoping for some mercy. But Death ignored him, and the scythe drew closer, just a few centimeters away from his neck.
Please.
God, Mary, save me. Finally, Lucien managed to speak, instinctively calling out to God and the Virgin Mary. My child, are you calling me? A gentle voice came through, like a heavenly melody, as if a warm winter sun had entered the room, warming Lucien's body. He slowly turned his neck, his eyes wide open in surprise as he looked at the Virgin Mary appearing before him. She looked exactly like he imagined, even more beautiful, radiating a loving glow, though she seemed a bit stern, her expression cold. But Lucien thought it was normal. How could the Virgin Mary laugh like a mortal? A serious Virgin Mary was pure and great. Please save me. I am still young, and I am your devoted follower. Lucien clung to her like a lifeline, crying out for help. He noticed that after the Virgin Mary appeared, Death's scythe had stopped, not moving away, but not getting closer either. Lucien was overjoyed and cried even harder, each tear filled with sincerity. Child, you are too greedy, seeking money that does not belong to you, causing hunger and poverty among the people. Your sins are deep. Tang Nian wasn't sure how the Virgin Mary should speak, so she decided to imitate the voice of Guanyin, the Bodhisattva, thinking they were both heavenly beings and could connect. Lucien, terrified and panicked, didn't have the mind to question the Virgin Mary's authenticity. He had seen her appear before him and believed her completely, without a doubt. When he heard the Virgin Mary call him greedy, his heart sank, his face changed, and beads of cold sweat dripped from his forehead, making him trust her even more. He had barely started his scheme, and both the Virgin Mary and Death knew about it. One wanted his life, and the other came to advise him. The Bible was right. One must never do evil, for God and the Virgin Mary would know. I will change, I promise. I won't take that money. I will pay them more. Can I still live? Lucien's mind was sharp, and he quickly grasped the key point. Making money was important, but life was more precious. You needed to be alive to spend money. Recognizing your mistakes and changing is good. You're still a good child. Thanatos, spare him this time. If he makes a mistake again, I won't stop you. Tang Nian spoke with compassion, negotiating with Death. Lucien nodded vigorously, saying, I will never be greedy again. I will do charity. All the money I earn will go to charity. I swear. After all, he didn't want to marry or have children. Besides eating and having fun, he could donate the rest. He should be able to live a few more years, right? Tang Nian pretended to persuade him a bit more, and finally, Death put away the scythe, casting a cold glance at Lucien before disappearing from the room. Lucien felt a flash before his eyes, and Death was gone. He let out a long sigh of relief, wiping the cold sweat from his forehead. Had he just escaped death? Child, remember your words and do not make mistakes again. Tang Nian's ethereal voice floated in from afar. Lucien quickly nodded, promising, I will change tomorrow. I keep my word. Then, his vision blurred again, and the Virgin Mary also vanished. Lucien wiped his face again, his palms sweaty, his back soaked. He bit his finger, feeling pain that brought tears to his eyes. It was real. Death had just come to take his life, but the Virgin Mary had stopped him and told him not to earn what he didn't deserve. It was all true, and he had promised her. "Mary, I will keep my promise." Lucien made the sign of the cross over his chest. What he didn't know was that his companions also experienced the same fright and made the same promise. At that moment, Tang Nian and Xin Xiao were in Kurt's room. This guy looked down on the Chinese, always calling them yellow-skinned lowlifes. She had long wanted to teach this white pig a lesson. Tang Nian was much harsher with Kurt than with Lucien and the others. While Lucien and his group were despicable, they still pretended to respect the Chinese, using tricks to make a profit. Kurt stood on Chinese soil and insulted the Chinese people. She needed to scare this white pig properly. Just like with Lucien, ice packs woke Kurt up, followed by Death's scythe. Kurt was much more cowardly than Lucien, scared to the point of losing control, leaving a foul smell on the bed. Before Tang Nian could act, Kurt rolled his eyes and fainted. What a useless thing. Tang Nian kicked him in disgust. She hadn't even had a chance to play the Virgin Mary yet. He was truly useless. Even though he fainted, it didn't affect her plans. Tang Nian poked Kurt awake with a needle and smoothly delivered her speech about his arrogance. "The angels of the East found me and said you insulted their people, calling them yellow-skinned pigs. Now you stand on Eastern soil, yet you speak disrespectfully, damaging the reputation of Westerners. Death is very angry and wants to take you away. Please, I will change. I won't call them yellow-skinned pigs anymore. I promise." Kurt's heart sank. He never expected this would be the reason for his early demise. If he had known, he would have treated the Chinese with the utmost respect, even more than he treated his parents. "How will you change?" "The angel from the East is very angry. You need to show sincerity." Tang Nian asked deliberately. Kurt's mind raced as he thought hard, more determined than when he took his college entrance exam. Finally, he came up with a good idea and said earnestly, "China's economy is currently struggling. I will buy more of their goods. I brought a lot of money, and I will spend it all at high prices to help the Chinese make more profit. Is that okay?" Tang Nian pretended to think for a moment and reluctantly agreed. Then she and Xin Xiao performed a disappearing act. Kurt watched in disbelief as they vanished from the room without blinking. After a long time, he dared to get out of bed, trembling as he walked to the spot where Tang Nian and the Grim Reaper had stood. He waved his hand, but all he felt was air. They were truly gone. Kurt shook even more, biting down on his finger to feel the pain, which made him more alert. Seeing the blood on his finger and the wet blanket, he finally realized it wasn't a dream. He had almost been taken by the Grim Reaper. He was only 30 years old. Holy Mary, Amen. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, God. Kurt felt immense gratitude towards his mother, a devout Christian who took him to church every week for sincere prayers. It was in this moment of crisis that Mary had saved him. "Thank you, Mary." Kurt made the sign of the cross over his chest, looking particularly reverent. His companions were equally shaken. That night, many people were destined to lose sleep. Tang Nian and Xin Xiao were greatly satisfied with their performance. They returned to their room to change out their props, putting them away for future use. Morning came. The hotel was lively again as foreign merchants woke up and headed to the dining hall for breakfast, and Tang Nian and Xin Xiao joined them. Lucien and his companions sat together. Kurt was with his group as well. Their expressions were similar: fear, panic, and anxiety. Did you see it too? The Grim Reaper was terrifying. That scythe was right at my neck. If it had moved just a little, it would have cut my throat. Thank goodness Mary came. Lucien grew more excited as he recounted last night's encounter, gesturing wildly. Yes, me too. Mary saved me. His companions nodded, all looking relieved to be alive. Their expressions grew serious, and they fell silent as they realized that last night's experience was not a dream. They had truly come close to being taken by the Grim Reaper. They also had promises to fulfill before Mary, or else they would face the Grim Reaper's scythe again tonight. Kurt and his group discussed the same topic, sharing similar reactions. I promised Mary the First would spend all the money I brought.
Kurt said.
I promised to, others replied, looking disheartened as it exceeded their budget. Just spend it. Do you want to see the Grim Reaper again? Another person said with a bitter smile. Everyone's faces changed, shaking their heads. They never wanted to see the Grim Reaper again. Tang Nian listened closely to their conversation, a smile creeping onto her face. At least these people were smart. If they didn't keep their promises today, they would face the devil tonight. Representatives from the textile factory were also present, looking worried and lacking appetite. Director Jia advised, you should eat something. I've already called the leaders. We should get a response today. Now we can only let the foreigners take advantage of us, selling at low prices. We regret these losses. Months of hard work wasted. Their eyes turned red with frustration. They hated feeling so helpless, falling for the foreigners' tricks and causing such a big loss to the country. Learn from this mistake. We lack experience in foreign trade. We suffered this time, but we will take lessons and earn the money back from the foreigners. Director Jia said sternly. Everyone nodded and began to eat breakfast. After breakfast, they all went to the exhibition hall. With only 2 days left until the end of the fair, everyone was even more eager to introduce their products to foreign merchants, hoping to secure more foreign exchange orders. Tang Jianshu and his 2 companions had become seasoned foreign trade salespeople, their English improving rapidly. Even without Tang Nian, they could handle orders independently. In the past few days, they had signed contracts worth over $1 million, more than any other craft factory. Mantong, let's go attract customers while Jianshu stays here, Zhou Guiqing said, unable to sit still. His voice was hoarse from talking too much in the crowded exhibition hall. I'll go east, you go west, Mantong replied, also hoarse. The two split up to attract customers. Tang Nian wandered nearby before returning to her own booth, where Xin Xiao joined her to welcome foreign merchants. I want these and this too. Kurt's voice rang out. He primarily dealt in small accessories and had just visited other craft booths without finding satisfactory products. Even for his safety, he couldn't buy recklessly and lose money. Kurt had heard from other merchants that this booth had great products, and upon seeing them, he decided to buy them all. You want all of these? The prices aren't cheap, Tang Nian said, raising the prices by 30%. Kurt could still make a profit, just not as much. Why are yours more expensive than others? Kurt asked, looking displeased. He had checked the prices and found that others were quoted 30% higher than what he was offered.
Darn yellow-skinned.
Kurt blurted out, but before he could finish, he felt a sharp pain in his neck, as if something had cut him. He touched his neck and found it wet. He had blood on his hands. Mary, I was wrong. I was wrong. Kurt's face turned pale as he slapped himself, repeatedly saying, I was wrong. I'll take all of these at your price, arrange for $500,000 worth of goods. Kurt no longer dared to complain about the price. Even if it was 30% more, he could still make a profit, and he would rather earn less than lose his life. Tang Nian glanced at Xin Xiao with approval. He had just used a burst of energy to lightly cut Kurt's skin. It was only a surface wound. Xin Xiao smiled slightly. Shangguan Jing was called over. Seeing Kurt eager to sign the contract, even though she had been trained to remain calm, she was still a bit surprised. Mr. Kurt, are you sure you want to sign the contract at this price? Shangguan Jing wanted to confirm to avoid any later regrets from Kurt about the pricing. Absolutely sure. 100% sure. Hurry up and sign the contract. Kurt's face was pale, and he looked panicked, holding his neck as if afraid the Grim Reaper would strike again. Shangguan Jing wanted to ask more questions, but Kurt was impatient and signed the contract, stamping it to show his sincerity. Tang Nian quickly signed as well and stamped it, completing the order. Soon, several of Kurt's friends came over. Upon seeing the blood on Kurt's neck and hearing about his terrifying experience, they hesitated no longer and rushed to sign the contract. Don't fight with me. I'm an only child. My mom has a heart condition, and if something happens to me, she won't survive. If I get hurt, my parents won't make it either. Let me sign first. Step aside. I have a heart condition and can't handle stress. If death comes again tonight, I won't survive. Friends, let me through. Get lost. Who's your friend? The friends acted like they were in a play, each coming up with wild excuses, more entertaining than a comedy skit, all eager to sign the contract, fearing that if they were slow, death would come for them. Shangguan Jing's eyes widened, and her mouth slightly opened, breaking her usual calm demeanor with a hint of playfulness. Even after years in foreign trade, she had never seen such an absurd scene. This wasn't business. It was like they were eager to hand over money. Tang Jianshu, initially shocked, quickly got involved, helping Tang Nian with the contracts while silently counting 50, 30, 20, 15.
Ha ha ha.
He couldn't hide his joy, his smile stretching from ear to ear. Tang Mantong and Zhou Guoqing heard the news and rushed back. Seeing the chaotic scene, they were just as astonished as Shangguan Jing. However, they didn't stay surprised for long. Their business instincts kicked in, and they quickly calmed down, joining Tang Jianshu in assisting Tang Nian. We have too many orders. The delivery is pushed to October next year. Tang Nian explained before signing more contracts. Can we expedite it? I'll pay more. Though scared of death, their instinct for profit made them say this. If delivery was delayed until next year, others would make all the money, and they wouldn't even get a taste. Sure. Tang Nian proposed an expedited price, adding 20% to the original cost. Shangguan Jing's eyes widened even more. She hesitated several times, wanting to advise Tang Nian to be a bit kinder to the foreign clients. The price was already higher than similar products, and raising it further made it nearly 3 times the price of competitors. Even if Tang Nian's products were indeed more exquisite, they shouldn't be that much more expensive, right? If these foreigners took the goods back home and couldn't make a profit, they might not return to the trade fair, which would be a big loss. Tang Mantong gently tugged her hand, shaking his head slightly, signaling her not to interfere. Nian won't make reckless decisions, don't worry. Though Tang Mantong thought the price was a bit outrageous, he trusted his niece to make wise choices. This price is 3 times higher than similar products. That's too much. Shangguan Jing lowered her voice. As a government official, she had to keep the bigger picture in mind. Making money shouldn't come at the expense of the overall situation. But other products can't compare to ours. Selling is about appearance, and our products look the best and are of high quality, so it's reasonable to charge more. Tang Mantong argued back, making a valid point. You aren't just charging a bit more, you're charging 3 times as much. Shangguan Jing insisted. She wasn't against raising prices, but this was excessive, and she feared it would lead to trouble later. Let me give you an example. Who makes the most money in the theater? The leading actors. A top actor earns dozens or even hundreds of times what a supporting actor makes. It's reasonable, right? No one complains about the leading actors earning so much. Tang Mantong calmly explained, using the theater analogy. Shangguan Jing wanted to argue back, but found herself speechless, finally managing to say, "You're just being unreasonable. It's not the same thing." Tang Mantong smiled, showing his white teeth, exuding a bit of charm. He continued, "The situations may differ, but the principle is the same. Our products are the leading actors, while others are the supporting ones. Look at these foreigners. They're fighting to sign even at 3 times the price. I may not understand all the big principles, but if people are buying, it means the product is worth it." Shangguan Jing felt a bit dizzy from his reasoning. He had a point. If there were buyers, it was a fair trade. Yet, she still sensed something was off. "I can't argue with you. I need to consult my supervisor." Shangguan Jing gave up on debating with Tang Mantong and went to consult Director Jia. After she left, Zhou Guoqing wiped his sweat and whispered, "Did you just lose your mind? Shangguan is an official, and you said all that to her? Are you trying to get in trouble?" "I just couldn't hold back. I'm tired of dealing with those people." Tang Mantong felt frustrated. He wasn't targeting Shangguan Jing. He just couldn't contain himself, worried about the current situation. There were plenty of opportunities to make money, yet some foolish officials were holding things up, doing nothing beneficial for the country or the people, just putting on airs. It made him want to punch those lazy bureaucrats. You need to keep your cool. Those people may not have real skills, but they sure know how to block us. Zhou Guoqing advised, then disagreed. Shangguan is quite practical and has helped us a lot. You shouldn't have vented your frustrations at her. Apologize later, and maybe take her out for a meal. Forget about eating, just seeing her reminds me of our homeroom teacher. I can't even eat dragon meat. Tang Mantong shook his head vigorously. He was still intimidated by Shangguan Jing. Her presence and authority were even stronger than that of their old homeroom teacher. Comrade Shangguan is quite beautiful and capable. I think she's really great, Zhou Guoqing praised her. If he weren't married, he would definitely pursue her boldly. She is pretty, but she's also fierce. When choosing a wife, you need someone who can be sweet. The moment she walks in and calls hubby in a cute voice, it melts your heart. That's what beauty is. Tang Mantong's voice lowered for the last few sentences, but due to the surrounding noise, he unconsciously raised his volume, getting louder. Brother Mantong, you're still too young. When marrying, you need to choose wisely. A woman who can act cute sounds nice, but it doesn't help in tough times. Let me tell you, marrying someone like Comrade Shangguan, who is dignified, capable, and can handle responsibilities, will definitely bring good fortune for generations. Zhou Guoqing shook his head repeatedly. He was 2 years older than Tang Mantong, already married with children, and had a much more mature view of marriage and family. A sweet woman may look pleasing, but most can't handle difficulties. No family can sail smoothly all the time. If something goes wrong, such women will just cry and be of no help. You need to marry a capable and composed woman to manage the household well, allowing a man to venture outside without worries. I'm marrying a wife, not a mother. Tang Mantong rolled his eyes. He simply liked women who could act cute. The steady and dignified type wasn't for him. Their conversation completely derailed, and they argued passionately. Tang Nian and Tang Jianshu were not busy for now because Shangguan Jing had to consult the leaders. The contract would have to wait until she returned. Kurt and his friends were anxious, but didn't dare to rush her, fearing a bad attitude might bring trouble later. Shangguan Jing hurried back, almost running. Director Jia had already called to consult the leaders, who instructed to respect the foreign merchants' wishes and sign the contract with them. The leader said this because, an hour earlier, the foreign merchants who had plotted against the textile factory rushed to the factory's booth early in the morning, strongly demanding to buy the large batch of fabric they had schemed against at a price 30% higher than before. They also urged the textile factory to sign the contract quickly, as if a tiger were chasing them. Director Jia and Shangguan Jing described these people's anxious expressions, which were just like Kurt and his friends. They both wondered if these people had gone mad. However, being firm materialists, they dismissed the thought quickly. Because of the textile factory situation, Director Jia had consulted the higher-ups early and received instructions to respect the foreign merchants' wishes. Shangguan Jing felt relieved and rushed over to reply, only to hear Tang Mantong and Zhou Guoqing discussing women from a distance. I just like sweet women. Those serious ones make me nervous. Tang Mantong raised his voice significantly, wanting to ignore Zhou Guoqing's nonsense. Everyone has their preferences. What's wrong with liking sweet women? Just then, Shangguan Jing walked by, clearly hearing him, and shot Tang Mantong a cold glance, her eyes full of disdain. Men are like this, only focusing on appearances. Utterly foolish. Tang Mantong thought Shangguan Jing was still angry about their earlier argument, so he smiled and asked, Comrade Shangguan, what did the leaders say? Shangguan Jing ignored him and told Zhou Guoqing, the leaders instructed to respect the foreign merchants' wishes. She didn't look at Tang Mantong at all. She disliked shallow men. Even if he was her admired Tang Nian's uncle, she had no good impression of him. Tang Mantong rubbed his nose, feeling awkward and a bit regretful about their earlier argument. He didn't expect that Comrade Shangguan, who seemed so composed, would hold a grudge over a small dispute. He brushed it off and cheerfully went to help his niece. Watching the foreign exchange orders being signed, he couldn't stop smiling, showing off his big white teeth, beaming with joy. Kurt and his friends had signed the contracts. In just 1 hour, they secured foreign exchange orders worth 1.2 million, adding to the previous day's totals, bringing the grand total to over 3 million. This was 15 times more than the 200,000 tang nian had promised before. Not only was this unique in the craft factory, but it also stood out compared to some large state-owned factories. Moreover, Tang Nian helped other manufacturers secure millions in foreign trade orders. The beautiful factory's pearl crafts also contributed, as there weren't many pearl materials in the local area, requiring raw materials to be sourced from other factories, boosting the economy of other cities. Director Jia learned about the good news from Shangguan Jing and immediately called to report to the higher-ups. This autumn's trade fair saw foreign trade orders surpassing the previous half-year by several million, a truly impressive achievement. Leaders, I'm not exaggerating. This success is partly due to Comrade Tang Nian, the beautiful craft factory, and the jelly hairpin factory, though just village-run enterprises, secured 3 million in orders. Before the trade fair, they had over 1 million in orders, totaling over 4 million. Production is scheduled all the way to next year. Director Jia, usually reserved and low-key, praised Tang Nian enthusiastically, showering her with compliments. Comrade Tang Nian is also fluent in multiple languages and served as a translator at this exhibition, helping many manufacturers secure a large number of orders, totaling 3.56 million. Leaders, this trade fair was a great success. Half of it is due to everyone's efforts, and the other half is definitely thanks to Comrade Tang Nian. Shouldn't we reward her when we return? We'll discuss it in the next meeting. Old Jia, you praise Tang Nian so much that it sounds like she's your own daughter. The leader joked, as this trade fair had only been going on for 5 days. Director Jia called daily to report, and each time he praised Tang Nian, to the point where the leader felt overwhelmed. Director Jia felt a chill in his heart and quickly said, I truly admire Comrade Tang Nian. She's young, talented, and a pillar. We'll discuss it in the next meeting. Old Jia, you praise Tang Nian so much that it sounds like she's your own daughter. The leader joked, as this trade fair had only been going on for 5 days. Director Jia called daily to report, Comrade Tang Nian definitely deserves recognition. Don't worry. The leader reassured him, confirming that securing millions in foreign exchange for the country was a significant achievement that needed to be acknowledged, ensuring that those who worked hard wouldn't feel disheartened. After chatting with the leader for a bit longer, Director Jia hung up, wiped the sweat from his forehead, and let out a long sigh. He had been too eager just now. He needed to be more tactful in the future. Even if he wanted to commend Tang Nian, he shouldn't rush it. He needed to take his time. Director Xia felt a bit tired. Working in the department was like this. To get something done, you had to take many twists and turns, never going straight to the point. It's no wonder Xiao Tang didn't like it. After working in the department for decades, he still felt exhausted. During the busiest days of the Canton Fair, everyone was extremely busy, but afterwards, things calmed down. Many foreign merchants found satisfactory products and returned home early. Once Tang Nian had some free time, she handed over everything to Tang Jinshu and the others and went out to have fun with Xin Xiao. Tang Jinglin's family and Zhao Fonghua also left early. Before leaving, they said goodbye to Tang Nian. Although they felt reluctant, it wasn't too hard because Tang Nian said they would see each other again soon, and they left with hope. Tang Nian and Xin Xiao wandered around the streets and alleys of Yangcheng, took many photos, and bought a lot of local specialties. In a small alley, they ran into Kurt and his friends, who were also out exploring. A ball was thrown out and nearly hit Kurt. A little boy ran out, too scared to pick up the ball, just watching timidly. Tang Nian stopped to see how he would react. Kurt frowned and was about to scold. However, he quickly regained his composure and touched his neck, where the wound had just scabbed over and still hurt. It's my fault for not watching where I was going. It's not your fault. Here, take this money and buy some candy. Kurt forced a warm smile, bent down, and stuffed a bill into the little boy's pocket. The boy's mother rushed over, worried when she saw her son had bumped into a foreigner. She hurried to apologize but was confused by Kurt's actions. I can't take the money. It's my child's fault. The mother pulled her son away, wanting to return the money to Kurt. She was afraid of trouble.
Please take it.
It's mine. Kurt insisted on giving the money. He had almost made a mistake again, and was sure that death itself had seen it. If he didn't give the money, he feared death would come for him again. The two were at an impasse, unable to understand each other. Just take it. Tang Nian stepped forward, took Kurt's money, which was a $10 bill, enough to help the mother and son. She handed the money to the mother, reassuring her, there won't be any trouble. Don't worry. What kind of money is this?
Can it be used?
Although the mother didn't know Tang Nian, she felt a sense of security from the pretty girl and accepted the money, not understanding US dollars or how to use it. Go to the bank to exchange it. You can get about 20 yuan. Just don't spend it recklessly, Tang Nian advised. That's too much. I can't take this money. Young lady, please return it to the foreigner. My son bumped into him. How can I take his money? I can't take what isn't mine. When the mother heard it was worth 20 yuan, her expression changed, and she was determined to return it to Kurt. Tang Nian didn't try to persuade her. She turned to Kurt and said, the child's mother says she doesn't want any money. She is poor but has integrity and won't accept this money, especially since it was her child's fault. She apologizes on behalf of her child. No need to apologize. The child did nothing wrong. I was about to scold him. I should be the one apologizing. Kurt shook his head vigorously, terrified to accept an apology, fearing death wouldn't spare him. Please, just take the money. I'm begging you. Kurt pleaded quietly. If he didn't accept the money, he feared he wouldn't see the son tomorrow. Eventually, after much pleading from Kurt, the mother reluctantly accepted the $10. Is this foreigner crazy? The mother quietly asked Tang Nian, pointing to her head. If he wasn't crazy, why would he just give money to anyone? Probably.
Tang Nian not dead.
People like Kurt were often bullied and acted foolishly. A few lessons would make him behave. The mother took the $10 and happily led her son home. Kurt and his friends continued to enjoy their shopping. Everyone was happy. After a day of exploring, Tang Nian returned to the hotel with Xiao. At the entrance, she ran into Director Xie and several representatives from textile factories who looked lively, unlike the previous days. Xiao Tang, did you enjoy Yangchen? Director Xie called out to her, his eyes meaningful.
It was okay.
Do you want some snacks? Tang Nian took out a bag of treats for them to share. I have a question. I don't understand why those foreign merchants changed their minds overnight and asked to raise the price. It seems strange. Director Xie pulled Tang Nian aside to speak quietly. It means our products are good, Tang Nian said, biting into a pastry and offering a piece to Director Xie. I don't want any, Director Xie declined, then added, but I heard those foreign merchants talking about God and Maria, and also about death. Do you know what that's about? Actually, it was something Shangguan Jing had overheard. The foreign merchant said, hurry and sign the contract, or death won't spare us. Maria said she would only save us once and wouldn't help again. Shangguan Jing was puzzled. What did signing a contract have to do with Maria and death? These foreigners occasionally made the sign of the cross on their chests, praying for God and Maria's protection, looking particularly devout. She told Director Xie about this, and he found it strange, but soon thought of the mysterious deaths of Su Lifeng and his companions, as well as the downfall of the Zhou family in the capital. All of it seemed inexplicable, not like something ordinary people could do, but rather like something supernatural. However, one thing was clear. Whether it was Su Lifeng and his companions or the Zhou family, they had conflicts with Tang Nian and Xiao. So, the sudden change in attitude from these foreigners might also be due to Tang Nian. Or perhaps Xiao. Or maybe it was the two of them working together. As Director Xie spoke, he observed Tang Nian, but she didn't even change her expression, happily munching on the pastry and catching the crumbs with her hand. Stop just eating and share your thoughts, Director Xie said, half amused and half annoyed. After finishing her pastry and wiping her mouth, Tang Nian replied, I don't have any thoughts. Foreigners believe in God, and Maria just like we believe in bodhisattvas.
What's so strange about that?
But to change their attitude overnight is too strange. Could someone have done something to them? Director Sia asked cautiously. Who knows?
Ta nian sut.
Seeing that Director Sia wanted to ask more, she added, maybe God is also crazy. What do you mean crazy? Xiao Tang, be clearer. Who is crazy? Director Sia didn't catch her meaning, only hearing the word crazy. By the time he realized, Tang Nian had already walked away, leaving him feeling unsettled. Why can't you just say things clearly? Director Sia joked, deciding not to pursue the matter further. He was fairly certain it had something to do with Tang Nian, but he didn't plan to report it. The outcome was good, so the process didn't matter. Shen Xiao left Yangcheng after 3 days to carry out his mission. The Canton Fair continued until early November. This time, Tang Nian learned her lesson and bought her sleeper ticket in advance. By the time she returned to Hu City, it was already November. Although the Canton Fair has ended, its momentum is strong. Tang Nian returned to Tang Village to assign production tasks, and almost every day, workers had to work overtime. They were all very motivated. Overtime meant more money, and everyone wanted to earn big to enjoy a prosperous year. Even the village children joined in to help with small tasks. Tang Nian expanded both the handicraft factory and the sock factory. Almost everyone in the village, except for a few families that had acted against her, was assigned work, and many people from outside the village were also hired. The 13 families waited and waited, but did not get job offers. Undeterred, they brought gifts to the team leader. The gifts were taken away, and the leader clearly stated that they should focus on farming and not think about working in the factory. Why can't we work? We all live in the same village. Why are we only allowed to farm? Tang Manshan, you are worse than a landlord. You want to see us live in poverty, right? As November arrived, the weather grew colder and the new year approached. The 13 families could no longer hold back. After being rejected multiple times, they finally lost their temper. They gathered at the team leader's door, with the elderly crying on the ground, the young children wailing, and a few young adults cursing, claiming the team leader was more ruthless than a landlord, exploiting and oppressing them. The team leader was furious, nearly spitting blood. He had worked diligently for years to benefit the villagers, yet these people were throwing dirt on his name. It broke his heart. How can you say such heartless things? What has my family done to exploit you? I have no say in who works in the factory. Why are you causing trouble at my home? You are farmers. If you don't farm, what do you expect to eat? San Ant argued with them, upset that they were bullying her husband. They're all working. Why can't we? The troublemakers pointed at other villagers, feeling justified. We can work hard. Zhang Shizhen, do you still have any shame? Your wife used to slander Nian, and you heard it. You said the factory was started because of her chaos. When you were spreading rumors, did you think about today? And you, Chao Tu Fa, your family has spoken ill of Nian. We all heard it. The factories in our village were established thanks to her. You stab us in the back and still want to benefit? Dream on. Zhu Yinju, you and your daughter-in-law were the loudest. Those rumors came from you. How can you have the face to cause trouble now? Nian and the team leader are generous enough not to kick you out, and you still want to work in the factory? What a fantasy. When Tang Nian and Old Lady Tang arrived, the conflict was already over. The villagers working in the factory had silenced the troublemakers with their words. Everyone saw clearly that whether or not they could work depended on Tang Nian's attitude. She had stated clearly on the loudspeaker that those who spoke ill of her would never work in the factory. Although her words were bold, she had the right to be. She built the factory and secured the orders, so she naturally had the authority to decide who could work. The villagers understood this well. If it weren't for personal reasons, Nian wouldn't need to cooperate with the village. She could run the factory herself. So, no one complained about how much of the profits Tang Nian took. They just focused on working and earning wages. Her success was her own merit, and they couldn't be envious. Second Aunt, I know I was wrong. I used to be at fault, but I will change. I won't speak ill of Nian anymore. Please, let us have a meal. A few people knelt before Old Lady Tang, begging desperately. Old Lady Tang jumped aside in shock and scolded, "Are you trying to shorten my life? Kneeling silently before me? Ugh. How unlucky." She wanted to live a long life and enjoy many more years of happiness. "I think you have a problem with your mindset. You complain about farming. If you don't farm, what will you eat? If no one farms, everyone will starve. You are farmers. Why do you look down on farming? Your thoughts and attitudes are seriously flawed." Old Lady Tang stood on her moral high ground, scolding them justly. They didn't dare to argue back. If caught, they could be sent to the farm for re-education. "Manshan, if they come to cause trouble again, just report it to the commune leaders and send them to the farm for education. You are a weak team leader if you can't handle such small matters. Dealing with these misguided people requires education." Old Lady Tang turned her criticism toward the team leader, speaking with authority. The villagers nodded in agreement, loudly supporting Old Lady Tang. "That's right. If they have a problem with their mindset, send them to the farm for re-education. We can't let a few bad apples ruin our village's reputation." "Exactly. Let's send them now to avoid daily disturbances." A few strong young men approached the troublemakers, ready to escort them to the farm. "We didn't cause trouble. When did we cause trouble?" The troublemakers, frightened, fled in a panic. Though unwilling, they dared not cause more trouble. They were now the minority in the village, and the minority could not overpower the majority. Old Lady Tang glared at the team leader in disdain and scolded, "If I were younger, you wouldn't even be the team leader." The team leader was filled with anger, but dared not retort. Most villagers were present, and Tang Nian took the opportunity to say, "I want to make it clear again. As long as everyone follows the rules and doesn't spread rumors, our factory will continue to improve, your wages will rise, and life will get better." "Nian, you're doing great," someone shouted, and everyone cheered, their spirits lifted. Tang Nian raised her hands to calm them down, and the team leader watched in envy. He wished he could have such authority, commanding without needing to raise his voice. "Next year, we will establish a machinery factory. Our Tang village will definitely get better, but I must warn you, if anyone causes trouble behind my back, don't blame me for not considering our village ties. One mistake, and you're out for life." Tang Nian's tone turned cold as she scanned the villagers. Each person felt a chill and straightened up, not daring to breathe. "If anyone dares to cause trouble again, I will not let them off." "I will too." A few young people quickly expressed their support. They had good relationships with Tang Jianshu and Tang Mantong, worked in the factory, and were very satisfied with their current lives. They did not want to return to the hard days of farming, where they worked tirelessly for a year and still struggled to eat. They wanted to buy gifts for the girls they liked but had no money. Now they earned wages and could buy whatever they wanted. The girls who once looked down on them were now actively seeking matchmakers. They were finally in a position to choose, all thanks to Tang Nian. They were determined to support her unwaveringly. The other villagers joined in, expressing their determination to uphold the village's good reputation and not let a few bad apples ruin their happy lives. The team leader felt even more envious. He wished he had such influence. Unfortunately, he didn't. To get the villagers to do anything, he had to put in a lot of effort, using sweet talk until his voice was hoarse.
Sigh.
Tang Nian boosted morale and gave a warning, mixing a little praise with discipline, and the villagers went off to work with high spirits. "Girl, we can't leave those people without work forever. They are our neighbors after all." The team leader was worried about potential trouble. He couldn't push them too hard, or they might react badly. "Let's arrange work for them next year, but it has to be heavy labor. They shouldn't be involved in technical jobs." Tang Nian didn't disagree. Assigning them heavy work was fine. If they could handle it, they would do it, and if not, they wouldn't have to.
All right.
The team leader felt relieved. After this incident, the dozen or so families became much more compliant, working steadily without gossiping. The village was peaceful and busy, with everyone, young and old, working hard for their livelihoods, making each day fulfilling. Time flew by, and the weather grew colder. In December, Tang Village welcomed its first snowfall of winter. While Tang Nian was still in bed, she heard Jiu Jin's excited shout, "It's snowing." The little girl was thrilled, rushed outside without properly dressing, and started eating the snow off the fence. "You'll get a stomachache. If I don't hit you for 3 days, you'll be itching to misbehave. Come back inside." Grandma Tang saw her from the door, marched over with a broom, grabbed Jiu Jin by the collar, and dragged her back inside. She first slapped the snow off her hands, then gave her several firm spanks on her bottom. Tang Jiu Jin gritted her teeth, determined not to cry out. After all, with her padded pants on, it didn't hurt at all. "Get dressed properly before you go eat snow again." Grandma Tang had a fierce look as she took a warm cotton coat from the stove and put it on Jiu Jin, scolding her a bit more. "Okay," Jiu Jin replied without sincerity, and Grandma warned, "That snow is dirty, full of bugs. If you eat it, you'll have bugs in your belly, and when you grow up, they'll crawl out of your mouth." The little girl was startled, her face worried. She even touched her belly, remembering she had eaten some snow before Grandma scolded her. Would there be bugs in her stomach now? Thinking about fat, long bugs crawling out of her mouth and possibly hurting her belly made Jiu Jin even more anxious. Grandma Tang felt pleased that she had scared her granddaughter and went to fetch a basin of hot water for Jiu Jin to wash up. She had already prepared breakfast. Every day, she woke up the earliest, and in winter, she woke up even earlier. After making breakfast, she would warm the children's clothes and shoes in the stove, so they wouldn't be cold when they put them on. Grandma had always done this. Tang Nian remembered never wearing cold clothes in winter. Everything she wore was warm. "Nana, it's snowing. Can I skip school tomorrow?" After washing up, Jiu Jin boldly made her request. Even though she had been in school for a few months, Jiu Jin still didn't like it. Being cooped up all day listening to the teacher was boring. "Can you skip breakfast instead?" Grandma Tang glared at her, impatiently pushing past Jiu Jin to prepare offerings for the ancestors. With winter solstice approaching, it was customary in Tang Village to honor deceased relatives before the holiday. Every year, a few days before winter solstice, Grandma Tang would prepare offerings, usually the late Grandpa Tang's favorite foods, with wine and meat, and the family would quietly go to the mountain to pay their respects. Although burning incense and worshipping was officially banned, it wasn't taken too seriously in Tang Village. As long as it wasn't done openly, people wouldn't report it. After all, the Chinese had believed in these customs for thousands of years, and every family had deceased relatives. No one was born from a rock, so everyone respected these traditions. "Jiu Jin, go wake your second sister," Grandma Tang shouted at the sleepy Jiu Jin. It was Sunday, and the family from the city, including Man Yin and Lu Jin, had come back for the rare family gathering to honor the old man. "Okay." Jiu Jin walked towards the house, but after a few steps, her eyes sparkled mischievously. She ran back outside, quietly grabbed a handful of snow, and sneakily headed to Tang Nian's room. "Wake up, first, second, and third. Are you waiting for me to come and get you?" Grandma Tang called out with a strong voice, but there was no response from the rooms. "If you don't get up, you won't eat." She called out a second time, her voice tinged with irritation. Tang Manjin and his wife got up, along with Tang Lu Jin and Xian Jinju, but the others still didn't respond. "You're all so lazy. If you keep sleeping in, you'll just have to starve." Grandma Tang couldn't hold back her anger anymore. With a fierce look, she stormed into the rooms of those still in bed, lifting the covers without hesitation, except for Tang Nian.
"Ah,
"Mom, what are you doing? I'll freeze to death."
Tom shouted.
"Grandma, don't lift it. I'm grown up now." Tang Dongchang felt embarrassed and tried to pull the blanket back. At 16, he didn't appreciate Grandma barging into his room and lifting his covers, leaving him with no privacy. "When you were little, I used to help you with everything. Now hurry up." Grandma Tang gave her grandson a solid smack on the bottom, shot him a fierce glare, and turned to scold the others. Tang Dongchang helplessly got dressed. He knew he couldn't reason with his grandma. Tang Nian was still lying in bed. On such a cold day, the outside was too far away, and she even went to the bathroom in her dreams, too lazy to get up. I'll get up in 5 more minutes. Tang Nian promised for the third time, having already spent 2 5-minute stretches lying there, still unable to overcome the warmth of her bed. Second sister. Jiojin opened the door and came in, hands behind her back, her little face flushed. Tang Nian didn't respond. It was too cold to even open her mouth. Grandma wants you up. We're going to the mountain to see Grandpa today. Jiojin leaned over the bed, speaking close to her ear. The warm breath from the little girl felt uncomfortable against Tang Nian's skin. I'll get up in a bit. Tang Nian turned over. Her grandma had a terrible habit of waking everyone up too early. Even if they had plenty of time to leave at 8, Grandma would start calling everyone at 6, making them all busy for no reason, leaving them sitting around like fools. So whenever Grandma called, Tang Nian would ignore her and wait until just the right time to get up. Second sister, there's so much snow outside. Can we skip school tomorrow? We might slip on the way. Jiojin climbed halfway onto the bed, insisting on talking closely. Don't come near me. I'm freezing. Tang Nian pushed her away in disgust, feeling the cold seep into her body and stealing the warmth from her blanket. Second sister, can you tell Grandma that I want to stay home and work tomorrow? Tang Jiojin still hadn't given up on skipping school. Are you going to skip meals tomorrow? Tang Nian rolled her eyes. Why shouldn't she go to school? She had been punished by Grandma for skipping school before. The hardships she endured must be doubled for Jiojin. Jiojin pouted, reluctantly stretched out her hand, her palm wet with melted snow, her little hands red from the cold. She quickly shoved her hand into the blanket and even slipped it into Tang Nian's collar. Tang Nian jumped in shock, feeling as if her soul had left her body, and her sleepiness vanished completely.
Ha ha ha.
Jiojin laughed triumphantly, nimbly climbing off the bed and running outside, but her collar was still held tight. Tang Nian, still in her pajamas, jumped out of bed to catch that naughty girl. She could have laid down for 3 more minutes, but this little brat ruined it. After giving Jiojin 3 solid slaps on the bottom, Tang Nian's anger finally eased a bit. Go get my clothes. She lightly kicked Jiojin's bottom. Her clothes weren't on the bed. Grandma must have taken them to warm by the stove.
Oh.
Jiojin giggled, patted her bottom, and ran out to fetch the clothes. She also brought back a fire pot filled with glowing red charcoal, covered with a thin layer of ash. The fire pot is a special winter heating tool in Tang Village. When cooking, they put the hot charcoal inside, add some fresh charcoal, cover it with ash, and if the fire gets small, they can add more charcoal to keep it going all day. Tang Nian got dressed and took out a copper hot water bottle from the blanket. It was said to be part of Grandma Tang's dowry, older than Tang Manjin. Though old, it was very useful. Filled with hot water before bed and covered with a cloth, it could keep warm all night, even better than a hot water bag. The water in the hot water bottle was still warm, so Tang Nian poured some into a basin and added more hot water to wash her face. Tang Manjin and the others had finished washing up and were busy with their tasks, while only Tang Mantong sat with the fire pot, yawning occasionally. This snow is really heavy. Next year's harvest will surely be good. Grandma Tang sighed as she looked at the large snowflakes falling from the sky. Grandma, I want to eat vegetable soup dumplings. After washing up, Tang Nian snatched the fire pot from Tang Mantong, suddenly craving dumplings. She didn't like eating Tang Yuan sweet rice balls, but she loved soup dumplings. In the local dialect, Tang Yuan refers to sweet rice balls, while soup dumplings are different. Tang Yuan are the black sesame glutinous rice balls sold in supermarkets, which are sticky and filled with filling. Tang Nian didn't like those. The soup dumplings she liked were handmade by Grandma Tang. They were made with 30% glutinous rice flour and 70% rice flour, mixed with hot water to form a dough, then rolled into small balls without filling. They had a chewy texture, not sticky. These soup dumplings could be cooked directly in sweet wine with sugar, making a delicious dessert, but Tang Nian didn't like that way of cooking. She preferred them boiled with vegetables, and adding some salty meat would make them even better. Wait until we come back from the mountain to make them. This time, Grandma Tang didn't scold her. Recently, everyone in the family, except for Tang Manjin, had been earning wages, making them one of the wealthier families in Tang Village. They were no longer as frugal with food. Most importantly, there were now 2 pregnant women in the family, so meat appeared on the table almost every day. Grandma, I also want to eat taro wontons. Tang Nian's mouth watered at the thought of taro wontons. It had been a long time since she had them. Let's make them when we have time. Grandma Tang rarely responded gently, but she agreed. Grandma, I also want to eat. Tang Nian pushed her luck, wanting Grandma to make pig trotters, which she hadn't had in a while. However, before she could finish, Grandma slapped her back. With a stern face, Grandma Tang slapped him hard, finally feeling relieved. Do you want to eat the leftover cake? That classic phrase finally came out, and everyone felt at ease. Tang Man Tong even shook his leg, enjoying the drama. He had said it all along. How could his mother be a gentle person? Nian was just dancing in front of a tiger, looking for trouble. Tang Nian sulkily sat next to Tang Man Tong and snatched the fire pot from him. I just started heating it up. You go make your own. Tang Man Tong took it back, feeling cold. Uncle, you're so young and afraid of the cold. Your yang energy is too weak. What are you going to do? Tang Nian grabbed it back and teased him. I'm full of yang energy. Don't try to provoke me. Tang Man Tong wasn't fooled and reached for it again. Tang Nian refused to let go, and the 2 of them sat on a stool, tugging at each other, causing the old bamboo chairs to creak dangerously.
Creak. Crash.
Finally, one of the chairs, as old as Grandma Tang, couldn't withstand their antics and broke down. Tang Man Tong fell flat on his back, the chair fell apart, and the fire pot tumbled, scattering hot charcoal everywhere, with some even landing on Grandma Tang's pants as she entered the room. Unfortunately, Grandma was wearing new corduroy pants today, and the charcoal left several holes. Tang Man Tong, still sitting on the ground, realized things were not looking good and scrambled to escape. You're over 20 and still acting like a child. When will you grow up? Others your age are almost in school. Look at you every day. All you do is eat, sleep, and cause trouble. Grandma Tang, furious, grabbed her youngest son's hair and scolded him while hitting him. Seeing the broken chair on the ground made her even angrier. She slapped Tang Man Tong several times, saying, "This chair was made by your grandfather. You wasteful thing, fix it. If you can't, you won't get to eat. Got it, Mom, be gentle." Tang Man Tong pleaded, feeling her grip getting stronger, making his bones ache. Go fix the chair. Grandma Tang gritted her teeth and yelled, glaring at Tang Nian, who was pretending to be innocent, before storming off to change her pants. The new pants she made last month had only been washed 3 times. She hadn't even shown them off enough before these 2 troublemakers ruined them. Oh, how infuriating. Grandma Tang grumbled as she went back to her room, and the whole family sighed in relief, having been scared just moments ago, fearing they would get caught in the crossfire. Old 3, you're really something. Over 20, and still acting like a teenager, not a bit mature. Hurry up and fix that chair. Tang Man didn't dare scold his niece, and could only vent his frustration on his brother. Stop talking. Don't you think Mom is enough of a headache? Xian Zhenju shot her husband a glare and went to serve breakfast. Tang Man chuckled, not daring to retort. His wife was pregnant, and he didn't even dare raise his voice. Today's breakfast was quite hearty. Grandma Tang cooked fresh rice and stir-fried some fresh vegetables along with last night's leftovers. There were stir-fried greens, steamed potatoes, and steamed salted meat with preserved vegetables. The preserved meat had been steamed several times, making it very flavorful, tender, and delicious. Grandma Tang changed her pants and came out for breakfast. Seeing that Su Jinfeng and Xian Jinju weren't taking any meat, she frowned and said, "You used to crave meat when there was none, and now that there is, you won't eat it? Adults should eat, and the children should too." "Mom, meat makes me feel sick." Su Jinfeng only took greens. She and Xian Jinju had both found out they were pregnant within a month, just half a month apart, and they weren't even 3 months along yet. "I feel the same. I only want to eat greens." Xianjinju took a piece of steamed potato, but didn't touch the meat at all.
Just say what you want. We can afford it now.
Grandma Tang rolled her eyes inwardly, but kept her thoughts to herself. After all, her daughters-in-law were carrying Tang family babies, and as their mother-in-law, she had to take good care of them. "Mom, I want to eat mixed vegetables." Su Jinfeng shyly made her request. She had been craving it for a long time. "Mom, I also want to eat Rose fermented tofu." Xianjinju was also craving it but didn't dare to say it, fearing Grandma Tang would think she was being picky. Even she felt it was unreasonable to crave pickled vegetables and fermented tofu when there was meat at every meal. She worried others would laugh at her. "Once we come back from the mountain, I'll go to town to buy some." Tang Manin quickly said he didn't have to work today, so he had time. "Uncle, please buy some dried tofu. I want to eat it with meat." Tang Nianyan also felt tempted. She had just thought of saying it, but Grandma Tang had silenced her. Grandma Tang stayed quiet and let them chatter. After all, she didn't have to pay. After breakfast, Grandma Tang packed the offerings for the tomb visit and told Su Jinfeng and Xianjinju to rest at home since the mountain was slippery with snow, and it wasn't suitable for pregnant women to go up. Tang Manjin took a shovel and led the way. The family changed into rain boots and put on raincoats and hats as they headed up the mountain. It was still snowing, and the back mountain looked beautiful with its green trees covered in white snow. As Tang Manjin walked, he shoveled snow to clear the path. Other villagers were also going to visit the graves. Old Man Tang was buried halfway up the slope, where all the Tang family members were laid to rest. There was a lot of snow on the grave, which Tang Manjin cleared, while Grandma Tang pulled out the weeds. Once everything was clean, Grandma Tang arranged the offerings: a plate of braised meat, a plate of steamed fish, a plate of sticky rice, and rice cakes, all of which the old man loved when he was alive. Grandma Tang lit incense and poured a cup of wine, quietly saying, "Old man, another year has passed. The family is doing well now, and Jinfeng and Jinju are both pregnant. Once they give birth, I'll come back to tell you. I wonder if you've been reborn yet. If not, please find a good family and don't worry about us anymore." After saying this, Grandma Tang burned the gold paper and joss money, and the whole family bowed at the grave. Once the gold paper was reduced to ashes, Grandma Tang put away the offerings, and the family bowed 3 more times to say goodbye to the old man. "Old man, we'll come back to see you in the new year. We're leaving now." Grandma Tang's eyes were slightly red. After wiping her eyes, she picked up the basket. "Let's go down." Tang Nianyan knelt to bow, silently saying, "Grandpa, I've found my real parents, and I've avenged my past life. Don't worry, this time I will take care of the family." Her only regret in this life was that the old man was no longer around. How wonderful it would have been if she could have been reborn before he passed away. "Nianyan, it's time to go down." Grandma Tang called, feeling very pleased. Although Nianyan wasn't her biological granddaughter, she shared a deep bond with the old man. Alas, it was a pity he couldn't enjoy the blessings of Nianyan. "I'm coming." Tang Nianyan wiped the snow off the tombstone and followed Grandma Tang down the mountain. This slope had dozens of graves, all belonging to the Tang clan's ancestors. Other families with different surnames were buried at the foot of the mountain, not eligible to be buried in the Tang family cemetery. When the family reached the bottom of the mountain, they wiped the mud off their shoes in the grass by the roadside.
Woo!
"Mommy!" A faint, sorrowful cry came from nearby. Tang Nianyan took a few steps toward the sound and saw a boy and a girl, both poorly dressed and patched up. Their cotton jackets were very old, and the cotton inside had probably hardened. The boy wore only thin pants and no socks, just simple cloth shoes. His ankles were covered in frostbite, with wounds that had cracked open and were bleeding, revealing red flesh. The girl was about the same age as Lu Jin, but she was thin, with sparse yellow hair. Her hands, which wiped her tears, were also covered in frostbite. The boy was around 11 or 12, just as skinny, with frostbite on his hands and feet too. These siblings looked so pitiful, starving and cold. Tang Nianyan thought the siblings looked somewhat familiar, but couldn't remember their names. "Lame?" Lu Jin recognized the girl and called her Yulame, from a family in the village.
The boy's name was Songbei.
The siblings had a hard life. Their mother passed away from a sudden illness when Yu Songbei was 7. Less than 6 months later, their father, Yu Qianjin, remarried, bringing home a stepmother who had a son and a daughter about the same age as them. With a stepmother came a stepfather. Yu Qianjin, who was never a good father, became even worse after remarrying. He ignored his biological children and didn't treat his stepchildren well either, leaving all household matters to the stepmother. The siblings lived a miserable life under their stepmother, doing the most work and getting the most beatings, while having the least to eat and wear. Now, in the middle of winter, they were still in thin pants and shoes, freezing and looking pitiful. Yu Lame wiped her tears, stood up, and saw the Tang family. Feeling shy, she pulled her brother up. The siblings stood awkwardly, unsure of where to put their hands. Tang Nian glanced over. The grave had no headstone, just a mound, with some cleared weeds around it. The mound was clean, with no offerings or incense. Second grandma, Uncle Manjin, Uncle Manin. Lu Jin, Sister Nian. Yu Lame greeted them one by one, even teaching her brother how to address them. Although the girl was ragged and thin, she had nice features. If she had proper nutrition, she would be a beautiful girl. Are you here to visit your mother? Grandma Tang asked. The siblings nodded, their eyes still red and swollen. It's so cold. Hurry down the mountains so you don't freeze, Su Jinfeng said with concern. The 2 children looked too pitiful in their thin clothes. Let's go back now. Yu Lame nodded obediently, holding her brother's hand as they walked down the mountain. They stumbled along, and her brother, Yu Songbei, slipped and fell but quickly got back up.
Ah!
Old Lady Tang sighed softly, feeling a bit sorry for them. The Tang family lived close to the back mountain, so the siblings had to pass by their house on the way home. Seeing their hunched figures, Old Lady Tang couldn't help but call out, "Come in and have some hot water." Yulame turned around and politely declined, "Thank you, Grandma, but I need to get back to work." "What work is there in this heavy snow?" "Come inside." Old Lady Tang walked over and pulled them both inside. The room was warm with a constantly burning brazier. Once inside, the siblings quickly warmed up, but the snow on their shoes melted, leaving a puddle on the floor. Feeling uneasy, they shifted their feet and stepped back a bit, worried about dirtying the place. "Sit down." Su Jinfeng brought over 2 chairs and urged them to sit. Xian Jinju handed them 2 warm bricks to warm their hands. Old Lady Tang went to the kitchen to make ginger and brown sugar water, generously adding 4 eggs, 2 for each of them. It was clear that the siblings had not eaten well. They were so thin that their bones were visible. That Yu Qianjin was truly heartless, letting his 2 children eat well while his own were nearly starving, and he didn't care about that ungrateful woman. Lame Songbei, have some cookies. Tang Jujin took out her beloved cookies and stuffed them into the siblings' hands. "No, we're not hungry." Yu Lame hesitated to accept. Such precious cookies were too much for her and her brother. "Just eat them."
Tanian insist.
The siblings dared not refuse. They were a bit intimidated by Tang Nian and obediently put the cookies in their mouths. The rich, sweet milk flavor spread quickly in their mouths, filling them with joy. It was a taste they had never experienced before, making them want to cry. "These are really good." Yu Songbei quickly finished 1 cookie and couldn't help but exclaim, "Here, have more." Jujin pulled out all the cookies from her pocket and handed them to Yu Songbei, no longer interested in them herself. "I'm fine with just 1." Yu Songbei felt embarrassed. He was already satisfied with just 1.
Eat.
Tang Nian urged again. The siblings, trembling a bit, obediently stuffed the cookies into their mouths. Old Lady Tang returned from the kitchen with 2 bowls of steaming ginger and brown sugar boiled eggs and placed them on the table, telling the siblings to eat. "Grandma, teach thank you." Yulame's voice caught in her throat, and tears welled up in her eyes. Yu Songbei also started to cry, tears streaming down his face. "Why are you crying? Hurry up and eat while it's hot." Old Lady Tang felt awkward. After all, her relationship with Yu Qianjin's second wife was very strained. She had ignored the siblings in the past, and today she didn't know why she felt so compassionate all of a sudden. Under old lady Tang's not-so-warm gaze, the siblings finished a big bowl of ginger and brown sugar boiled eggs, feeling warm all over.
We need to go home now.
Thank you, Grandma. Yulome didn't dare linger any longer. She and her brother had sneaked up the mountain, and there was still a lot of work to do at home. If they returned late, their stepmother would scold them. Go on home. Old Lady Tang didn't try to keep them. Giving them a bowl of boiled eggs was enough help, and she couldn't do more. Yulome took her brother's hand, and they hurriedly left. That black-hearted Higuaxiang found a fool for Lame in the mountains, and she's going to marry him after the new year, Su Jinfeng sighed, explaining why the siblings had been crying on the mountain. That fool can't even eat properly. He's in his 20s and still calls for his mother, and he keeps shouting for food. They offered 200 yuan as a bride price, and Yu Qianjin agreed. Xian Jinju said angrily. How come I didn't know about this? Old Lady Tang was shocked. How could she not know such big news? Yesterday, that fool's mother came over, and that's when it came out. I didn't have time to tell you, Xian Jinju quickly explained. Old Lady Tang frowned and scolded. Isn't Higuaxiang's daughter 2 years older than Lame? The older ones aren't married, so why is she in such a hurry? Has Yu Qianjin lost his mind? Higuaxiang wouldn't dare marry off her own daughter. That fool can't take care of himself and has a violent streak. I heard he was married once before and drove his wife to death in less than a year. If Lame marries him...
Sigh.
Xian Jinju sighed deeply, feeling very sorry for Yulame, but there was little she could do. Such family matters were hard for outsiders to intervene in. That Higuaxiang is heartless. She should be afraid of divine retribution. Old Lady Tang scolded a few times, but felt helpless. Though she sympathized with Yulame, she wasn't her real granddaughter, so there was little she could do. Tang Luqin angrily said, Lame is a top student. She was among the best in her class before being forced to drop out. Lame had originally been accepted into Zhucheng High School, but Yu Qianjin claimed they couldn't afford it. It was only after her middle school teacher visited several times that he reluctantly agreed to let her attend high school in town. But she only studied for a year. Yu Qianjin refused to support her any longer and forced her to drop out and work at home. Unexpectedly, that black-hearted Higuaxiang wouldn't give up, insisting on pushing Yulame into a fire pit. If Lame married that fool, she would have no way out. The Tang family expressed their outrage over Yulame's tragic situation and Higuaxiang's cruelty. As Tang Nian was warming herself by the fire, she suddenly slapped her forehead, realizing something. No wonder Yulame's name sounded familiar. It was this year's New Year's Eve when a major incident occurred in Tang Village. A 12-year-old boy jumped into the river, leaving behind a blood-written letter that moved everyone in the village. The boy who jumped was Yu Songbai. His letter contained only one sentence. Dad, I'm dead now and won't eat the family's food anymore. Save the food for my sister. Please have mercy, and don't force her to marry that fool. If you can't do that, I'll haunt you even as a ghost. The letter had many misspellings and was poorly written, but every word struck like a nail in the hearts of the villagers. In the new society of Tang Village, such a horrific event should not have happened, and the reputation of the village was tarnished by Yu Qianjin and his wife. The village chief personally intervened, canceling Yulame's engagement and insisting that Yu Qianjin support her education again. As for Higuaxiang, who had driven her stepson to death, she was punished by being made to clean the toilets for a year. With the village chief's authority and the entire village keeping an eye on them, Higuaxiang and Yu Qianjin dared not mistreat Yulame anymore. As a result, she successfully graduated from high school just in time for the college entrance exams to resume. With excellent grades, Yulame was accepted into Fudan University, and after graduating, she became a successful writer, achieving her dreams. But Yulame never married in her life and did not support Yu Qianjin and Higuaxiang as a couple. She only settled the living expenses for the siblings for over a decade in one go and never gave them another penny afterward. If I support you, how can I face my brother? This is what Yulame said to the shameless couple who came asking for money. She would always remember the cold body of her brother, pulled from the water on the morning of the first day of the Lunar New Year, who would never call her sister again. If she could start over, she would rather marry a fool than have her brother pay such a heavy price for her success. Moreover, Yulame did not live a happy life. She earned a lot of money from writing, but she lived a frugal life, never eating meat, being a lifelong vegetarian, wearing the same clothes for decades, rarely buying new ones, and living in a very poor place like an ascetic. Perhaps she was punishing herself, hoping it would ease her heart, but even so, Yulame never found peace and committed suicide before 50, leaving a note that said, "I'm going to find Mom and my brother." Before she died, she used all her assets to establish a charity fund to support poor children who could not afford to go to school.
The
harm from her original family could never be fully healed, could it? Yulame and her brother were truly unfortunate. The more Tang Laodai thought about it, the angrier she became, cursing, "Higue Xiang, you heartless wretch, how can you do such a wicked thing without fearing retribution? This is an arranged marriage. Third uncle must intervene." Tang Nian said. Since she had encountered this, she needed to take action.
"I'll go talk to him," she said.
Tang Laotai agreed, but was not optimistic. Firstly, such family matters were complicated, and even the village chief would find it hard to manage. Secondly, Higue Xiang was a shameless rogue, difficult to deal with. But Yulame was indeed pitiful, and Tang Laodai could not bear to see her suffering, so she decided to speak to the village chief. Another reason was that now that their family was doing well, Tang Laotai was worried that this good fortune would disappear, and they would return to their previous hardships. So she needed to act like the old landlady, doing good deeds. She might not have the ability to build bridges and roads yet, but she could still help the poor children. However, before Tang Laotai could leave, she heard a harsh voice cursing. "Showing off how many eggs and brown sugar you have, if you have so much money, why not share it with the whole village? My family's affairs are none of your business, you old hag. And brown sugar boiled eggs. Why not boil dragon meat instead?" The one cursing was Higue Xiang, and her words were clearly aimed at the Tang family. Tang Laotai's face darkened instantly. She opened the door and rushed out, shouting, "Higue Xiang, you heartless scoundrel. Aren't you afraid Yulame's mother will come to settle the score with you in the middle of the night? My family's affairs are none of your concern. If you have money, why not use it to support them? Anyone can talk empty words. I can talk better than you. If you pity them, put your money where your mouth is." Higue Xiang was not easy to deal with either, hands on her hips, shouting louder than Tang Laotai. Anyway, she wouldn't be doing any work at the factory, so she couldn't care less about this old hag. "You Qianjin, are you dead? Lame and Songbai are your own children, sharing your blood. Are you really going to drive your own daughter to death?" Tang Laotai was furious and turned her anger on the approaching Yu Qianjin. Yu Qianjin looked honest and simple, usually not saying much. He glanced at Higue Xiang and then at Tang Laotai, his expression pained and conflicted, finally saying, "Second aunt, please don't interfere in my family's matters." Tang Laotai was infuriated. If this useless man were her own child, she would have beaten him long ago. Higue Xiang felt even more triumphant and provocatively snorted at Tang Laotai, making her even angrier. "You'll face retribution for this." Tang Laotai gritted her teeth and cursed. "Don't worry about me, just take care of your own family. Stop meddling in others' affairs." Aren't you afraid of worrying yourself to death?" Higue Xiang rolled her eyes, her words extremely malicious. "I'll beat you, you heartless scoundrel." Tang Laotai lunged at her, grabbing Higue Xiang's hair, and they got into a fierce fight. Although Higue Xiang was younger, Tang Laotai was stronger from eating meat every day. The two were evenly matched, fighting fiercely. Su Jinfeng and Xian Jinju wanted to help but were pulled back by Tang Nian, who advised the pregnant women to stay out of it. Tang Nian managed to separate the two, who were in a heated argument. The village chief heard the commotion and rushed over. He did not dare to glare at Tang Laodai, but shot a fierce look at Yu Qianjin and Higue Xiang. Our Tang village is now a model village, and reporters will be coming to interview us soon. We will be on TV and in the newspapers. We absolutely cannot have any scandal about selling daughters. If anyone dares to ruin Tang Village's reputation and prevent us from being on TV and in the newspapers, don't blame me for being rude. Tang Nian spoke sternly, casting a cold glance at Higuixiang. Higuixiang felt a chill run down her back and shivered, but she still refused to back down, raising her head and snorting. Whether or not they got on TV was none of her concern. She didn't work at the factory and didn't get paid, so not being on TV was better for her. The village chief, however, was delighted and quickly asked, "Nian girl, are there really reporters coming to interview us?" Other villagers stretched their necks, eagerly looking at Tang Nian. Of course. The provincial TV station and newspaper will come to interview us. Our Tang village will not only be in the newspapers but also on TV, and people all over the country will see us. During this time, we absolutely cannot have any issues. Anyone who dares to ruin our village's reputation, I'll smash their pots. Tang Nian spoke seriously, and the whole village believed her, each person filled with joy. Especially the village chief, whose smile was so wide it almost reached his ears. He had been the chief for decades and had never been interviewed by reporters. He never expected that in his lifetime he would experience such glory.
Ha ha ha.
Yu Qianjin, quickly cancel Lame's marriage. This is nonsense. A 16-year-old girl marrying anyone, especially a fool. Are you even human? The village chief sternly reprimanded Yu Qianjin. Even if Tang Nian did not intervene, he would never agree to this marriage. The higher-ups had already abolished arranged marriages. If reporters found out that such a practice still existed in this model village, where would his face be as the village chief? We've already accepted the bride price. Yu Qianjin's expression was conflicted as he glanced at Higuixiang. He had always been indecisive. When his first wife was alive, she made the decisions, and now that she was gone, Higuixiang called the shots. He never thought for himself, just worked hard in the fields.
Cancel it.
The village chief said firmly, his tone leaving no room for refusal. We can't cancel it. We've already spent it. Higuixiang said stubbornly, not afraid of the village chief at all. In fact, she hadn't spent the 200 yuan. She was saving it to marry off her son. The village chief's face darkened, and he sneered, since you refuse to follow the village rules, then Tang village cannot keep your family. You need to find another place to live. Yes, go live somewhere else and don't ruin Tang Village's reputation. Hurry up and leave. Don't drag down Tang Village. The villagers were furious. They had never been on TV or in the newspapers, and if anyone dared to ruin their chances, they would not hold back. Higuixiang, though reckless, dared not make a sound in front of the angry villagers. Yet, she was unwilling to swallow her pride. In frustration, she kicked Yu Qianjin and shouted, "You useless man. Everyone is riding on my back, and you don't even dare to make a sound. How did I end up marrying such a coward? I can't rely on you for anything." Yu Qianjin opened his mouth but said nothing. He squatted down and buried his head in his arms like an ostrich. "You worthless piece of trash. Marrying you is the worst luck I've ever had." Higuixiang felt both angry and wronged. She didn't think she had done anything wrong. Yu Lame and her brother were not her own flesh and blood, so why should she treat them well? With only a little food and money at home, she had to prioritize her own children. Besides, if their own father, Yu Qianjin, didn't care about the two kids, why should she, as a stepmother?
Fine.
You villagers are ganging up on me, a woman. Are you trying to drive me to death? I won't live anymore. I'll die right here for you to see. Higuixiang pulled out her ultimate trick, sitting down and starting to cry and make a scene. With this act, even old Lady Tang had to take her seriously.
Bah.
Don't just talk. Go ahead and die for everyone to see. Higuixiang, if you die now, I'll pay $1 to eat your tofu rice. Old Lady Tang spat, her expression disdainful and her words sharp. The old lady was sure that Higuixiang wouldn't dare to die. Throughout the year, there were at least 300 days when Higuixiang threatened to end her life, but she never succeeded. The whole village saw through her act, except for Yu Qianjin, who was completely under her control, even afraid to let out a fart around her. Why not go outside? Because He Guixiang said that her farts shouldn't benefit outsiders. They had to be released at home. I can't live anymore. Heaven, open your eyes. This old hag is more heartless than a landlord trying to drive me to death. Open your eyes and strike down this wicked old woman. He Guixiang pounded her chest and wailed dramatically, like she was performing in a play. Although her tricks were old and not clever, they were effective. The villagers who had been shouting to drive her family away lost their anger. They couldn't just watch her die, could they? What if He Guixiang really died? The village would lose its reputation. The village chief looked very displeased. If the situation allowed, he would have liked to slap her. Old Lady Tang had already moved, cursing as she walked over. Heaven wouldn't help a wicked woman like you. If that fool is so good, why don't you marry your own daughter to him? You still dare to cry? Cry for your mother's death. Wait until I beat you to death, then you can cry. Before the old lady could act, someone else was quicker. It was Tang Nianyan. She grabbed He Guixiang by the collar and effortlessly lifted her off the ground, tightening the collar around her neck, making it hard for her to breathe and cry. He Guixiang's legs kicked in the air, making funny sounds, which caused some villagers to laugh. Tang Nianyan kept a cold face, holding He Guixiang with one hand and striding toward the river. The villagers' eyes lit up. Memories of the past suddenly resurfaced, and they followed eagerly. Could Nianyan really be planning to throw He Guixiang into the river? Just like they did with Qi Guixio. Nianyan. The village chief called out while running, worried that He Guixiang wasn't worth Nianyan getting her hands dirty and ruining her future. Old Lady Tang ran even faster, her arms moving like a blur, reaching the speed she had at 18. She feared Nianyan might do something foolish. 100 He Guixiangs weren't worth her granddaughter's time, and it wasn't right to teach He Guixiang a lesson this way. Nianyan, don't. Yu Lame ran from a distance. She had just returned home with a bucket of clothes to wash in the river. In the freezing cold, the water was biting. This was her daily routine. He Guixiang had a nose sharper than a dog's. As soon as she and her brother entered the house, she smelled the red sugar and egg aroma on them and accused them of stealing food. Her brother couldn't hold back and ended up mentioning the second aunt's house. Yulame thought the matter was settled, but didn't expect He Guixiang to come to cause trouble. Her brother ran to the riverbank to inform her. This is all my fault. I'm sorry, it's all my fault. When Yulame shouted, Tang Nianyan stopped to listen. The girl rushed over, grabbing her tightly and crying for mercy. She wasn't worried about her stepmother's life. She was afraid of causing trouble for Tang Nianyan. Yulame also thought Tang Nianyan was going to throw He Guixiang into the river. In this cold weather, being thrown into the river could mean death, and she didn't want to get her hands dirty over someone like He Guixiang. Dad, Mom promised before she died that she would take good care of me and Songbai. Mom waited for your nod before she passed away. While pulling on Tang Nianyan, Yulame cried to Yu Qianjin. This was the first time she mentioned her deceased mother. Yu Qianjin trembled, but still held his head. After the stepmother came, all the work at home fell to me and my brother. Our room was taken over by their family, and the clothes Mom made for us were also taken away. You became their father. I always thought, Dad, it's not easy for you either, so I endured. But why do you keep forcing me to marry a foolish man? You know very well that fool will beat me, yet you still agreed. Do you think my brother and I are worth less than grass in your eyes? Yulame couldn't continue. She didn't hate her stepmother as much. Her anger was directed at Yu Qianjin. This utterly useless man. He didn't deserve to be their father or their mother's husband. If Yu Qianjin hadn't been so weak, their mother wouldn't have died from overwork. She didn't have a sudden illness. Their mother was driven to death by Yu Qianjin. You've raised me this big, and you expect me to stay unmarried and let the family support me for life? Yulame, did you grow up on the northwest wind? How dare you speak back to your father? He Guixiang, still in Tang Nianyan's grip, began to curse. Yu Qianjin, who had been somewhat moved, was swayed back by her words and glared at his daughter. You need to marry when you reach the right age. Who you marry doesn't matter. You shouldn't have gone to school. Your brain is ruined. Did the family suffer because of you? What do you have to complain about? Yu Qianjin was weak outside but strict with his daughter, showing no signs of dullness. Yu Lame felt despair. She was completely disheartened by her father. Fine. I'm ungrateful and disrespectful. It's all my fault. Yu Lame wasn't weak by nature. For many years, she had endured for her brother. But now, influenced by her anger, she rushed toward the river. She would rather die than marry a fool. And if she died in front of the whole village, maybe Yu Qianjin would think twice and treat her brother better? It's all your fault. You, a child, don't obey and dare to argue. He Guixiang had just started her tirade when Tang Niannian slapped her unconscious. Others quickly reacted and chased after the crazed Yu Lame. Sister, don't leave me alone. Yu Songbai cried as he stumbled to catch up, slipping several times in the snowy ground, looking even more pitiful. Yu Lame, however, seemed not to hear him and ran faster. She just wanted to die and no longer live in humiliation. The small girl burst with great energy, running like the wind, outpacing the villagers who couldn't keep up. She was almost at the riverbank. Everyone's hearts were in their throats, afraid to witness the impending tragedy, when suddenly, a figure swooped in and grabbed Yu Lame by the collar. It was Tang Niannian. She tossed aside the troublesome He Guixiang and rushed to save Yu Lame. If you're brave enough to die, why fear living? Tang Niannian glared, clearly annoyed by those who sought death. If she were Yu Lame, she would secretly deal with Yu Qianjin, He Guixiang, and those two burdens, taking charge of her own life. Yu Qianjin rushed over, still a bit worried, but more concerned about the 200 yuan bride price. If the girl died, that money would be lost too. Seeing Yu Lame was safe, Yu Qianjin instantly became furious and charged at his rebellious daughter. How dare you threaten to die? I'll beat you to death, you ungrateful child. Yu Qianjin's normally meek face twisted with rage, looking terrifying as he raised his hand, glaring at Yu Lame like she was an enemy, making outsiders feel cold. Tang Niannian impatiently lifted her foot and kicked the scoundrel 10 meters away. She couldn't stand Yu Qianjin, a heartless and selfish coward who bullied his own family. The villagers were thrilled, hoping Tang Niannian would kick him again. She didn't disappoint them, walking up to Yu Qianjin and kicking him again. This time he fell flat in the snow, groaning and too scared to move. Third uncle, this is getting serious. We must handle this well and not leave a bad impression for the reporters. Tang Niannian said coldly. Yes, it must be handled properly. The village chief nodded vigorously, wanting to get on the news and television. The villagers thought the same, wanting to be on TV and bring glory to their families. It's too cold outside. Let's discuss this at my house, and bring He Guixiang and Yu Qianjin too. Tang Niannian still held Yu Lame and, after speaking, dragged her home. Niannian, please put me down. Yu Lame had calmed down a bit and felt a little scared. Just moments ago, it felt like a dream, and she almost did something foolish, but thankfully Niannian saved her.
Oh.
Tang Niannian then remembered she was still holding someone and let go, causing Yu Lame to fall into the snow. She ignored the siblings and walked faster, snowflakes falling into her collar, making her feel cold. She wanted to go back and warm up. Yu Songbai helped his sister up, tears still in his eyes from being scared. It's okay, sister won't be foolish again. Yu Lame hugged her brother, softly comforting him. She had promised their mother to take care of him, and she wouldn't make foolish mistakes again. The Tang family's fire was roaring, and Tang Mantong lazily cracked sunflower seeds, not worried about Grandma Tang being at a disadvantage. No one in Tang village could outfight his mother, and with Tang Niannian out, he didn't need to step in. The village chief called a few respected villagers to discuss Yu Lame's situation. He Guixiang and Yu Qianjin were also brought in, still unconscious. Tang Mantong slapped them both awake. Yu Lame and her brother stood awkwardly nearby, but their eyes were bright. They sensed something good was coming. No matter the outcome, it couldn't be worse than their current situation. Su Jinfeng and Xian Jinju made tea for everyone and brought out sunflower seeds and peanuts. About a dozen people gathered around the fire to discuss, but after finishing a pot of tea, they still hadn't reached a conclusion. Yu Lame is only 16. The marriage law states one must be 18 to marry. Regardless of whether there's a marriage certificate, if there's a marriage in fact, it's illegal. Our Tang village cannot engage in illegal activities. Tang Nian spoke up. Although this reason wasn't very strong, many girls in the countryside married at 16 or 17 if no one reported it. The prospect of being on TV made everyone agree. That's right, we absolutely cannot do illegal things. Nian girl, how should we handle this? We'll listen to you. Everyone looked at Tang Nian, realizing she was smarter than them, so they decided to follow her lead. Tang Nian glanced at Yu Lame and said coldly, separation. Yu Lame and her brother will live separately. I disagree. Why should they separate? He Guixiang shouted in protest, unwilling to lose 2 free laborers and the 200 yuan bride price. I've already spent the bride price. I can't pay you back. Are you trying to kill me? He Guixiang began to cry and make a scene again, but Tang Nian shot her a cold look and she fell silent, sulking. If you can't pay back, let your daughter marry. She's 18 now, so it's not illegal.
Tang Nian.
The others nodded in agreement. This was a great idea. I disagree. He Guixiang hadn't finished her protest when she received another painful kick, leaving her speechless. If you keep making noise, I'll toss you into the river to clear your mind. Don't think I can't handle you. Once Tang Nian said this, the temperature in the room dropped a few degrees. She wasn't joking. If He Guixiang didn't behave, the next step would be an accident. She meant what she said. He Guixiang shivered, her face pale. She remembered the Qi family. They had offended this fierce girl, and their entire family was wiped out, not a single survivor left. She had truly been foolish to provoke Tang Nian, the living demon. Separation. Do you have any objections? Tang Nian asked again. No, we agree. Yu Qianjin remained silent, and He Guixiang trembled as she agreed, though she was very unhappy about it. But she was scared. Third uncle, write a separation agreement. Let's settle this today, and it must be fair and just. We can't give the reporters anything to criticize. Tang Nian stated firmly. Understood. It will definitely be fair and just. The village chief's expression was serious. This was a matter that could get Tang Village on television, and he wanted to supervise it personally. With renewed motivation, the village chief worked efficiently, completing the separation before lunch. The Yu family was poor with little to their name, just 3 rooms. Yu Lame and her brother got 1 room, along with a month's worth of food and 2 chickens. The rest was just a worn-out quilt. He Guixiang, unwilling to accept this, looked at Yu Lame and her brother as if she wanted to eat them alive. Yu Lame and her brother were overjoyed. They had finally escaped their stepmother's grasp. Even if they had to eat roots and tree bark, they would be happy. The family is separated. He Guixiang Yu Qianjin, if you bully these 2 kids again, get out of Tang Village. The village chief scolded them and then turned to the siblings, saying, when your father gets old, you still have to fulfill your duty to care for him. You can't neglect him. We will. The siblings nodded in agreement. The village chief felt a sense of accomplishment. This troublesome matter was finally resolved, proving he was a wise and decisive leader with great resolve. Yu Lame bowed to the team leader and the elders who helped her family, thanking each one. When she reached Tang Nian, she whispered, "Thank you, Sister Nian." She knew that without Tang Nian's help today, she and her brother wouldn't have been able to separate so easily. She hoped to have a chance to repay Sister Nian in the future. Tang Nian smirked slightly and walked away. As she passed Grandma Tang, she said, "Grandma, I want to eat vegetable soup dumplings." After a busy morning, she was starving. "I'll make it soon. Everyone come to my house for dinner, including Lame and Songbai." Grandma Tang invited the team leader and a few others, along with Yu Lame and her brother, who had only received a bag of food. They had no oil or vegetables at home. The old lady pulled the siblings back to her house and shot a fierce glare at He Guixiang. thinking she would have to deal with that wicked woman every day. Humph. Making vegetable soup dumplings wasn't hard. Using 30% glutinous rice flour and 70% regular rice flour, Tang Mantong, who was strong, quickly kneaded the dough, while the women began to shape the dumplings. Tang Mianyan sat by the fire, feeling warm and yawning several times, her eyes watery. "Third uncle, we need to set up a scholarship fund in our village," Tang Mianyan said while yawning. The team leader didn't understand. "What do you mean by a scholarship fund?" "It means that for the children in the village who can't afford school, the village will pay for their tuition. This tuition will be considered a loan, with interest from the bank. When the children grow up and earn money, they will pay the village back." Tang Mianyan was talking about a scholarship loan from the future. She didn't want to give money away for free, as free things are often taken for granted. "That sounds like a lot of money," the team leader said, looking worried. He was afraid the village couldn't afford it. "I'll provide the money, but it has to be in the village's name. We need to sign a document. If they borrow the money, they must study hard. If they don't take it seriously, they won't get the money." Tang Mianyan yawned again. Tuition was cheap now, only 1 or 2 yuan per semester, and not every child in the village couldn't afford school, so it wasn't a huge amount. The team leader disagreed, thinking it was unfair to Tang Mianyan. The village should cover it. The 2 factories have made a lot of money. "Then I'll pay half, and the village will pay half. If we do this well, reporters will definitely promote it on TV, and our Tang village will become famous." Tang Mianyan painted a big picture. The team leader and others immediately became excited, eager to set up the scholarship fund right away. Yulamei's eyes sparkled like diamonds. Could she also borrow money? She really wanted to go to school because only by studying could she leave Tang village and see a wider world. Tang Mianyan noticed her thoughts and nodded slightly. Yulamei was overjoyed, tears welling up in her eyes. She secretly vowed to study hard and repay Sister Nianyan when she succeeded in the future. Once the dumplings were shaped, Grandma Tang cut a large piece of salted meat into thin strips, sautéed them to release the oil, added vegetables and water to boil, then added the dumplings. Once they floated, they were cooked. She made a big pot full, and the delicious smell wafted out, making everyone drool. Grandma Tang served a large bowl to herself and said, "After you finish, help yourselves to more from the pot. Eat until you're full. And you put more meat than vegetables. It smells amazing." Someone joked, "This is the best soup dumpling I've ever had." Everyone praised it, and someone couldn't help but say, "Even Xian landlord never had it this good." The team leader's face darkened, and he glared at the person, scolding, "Good food can't shut your mouth." The person realized he had misspoken. How could he mention the Xian landlord in front of the team leader? Everyone in the village knew that Tang Hongxing liked the Xian landlord's son, causing trouble at home. "Slap my mouth. I'm really foolish." The man awkwardly slapped his own mouth, not daring to speak again. The team leader had been in a good mood, but now he couldn't enjoy the delicious dumplings. Hongxing, the ungrateful girl, had been calm for a few months, but recently he heard that Xian Chuanrong was looking for a partner again, and she started causing trouble. The ungrateful girl's face was always long and sad, and seeing that face made him lose his appetite. The team leader felt truly disheartened. Sometimes he even thought it would have been better if that night Nian hadn't saved that ungrateful girl and she had drowned. But that was just a thought. No matter how heartbroken he felt, she was still his daughter. How could he be so cruel? The team leader sighed, feeling tasteless. "My wife said Xian Chuanrong found a job in the city and is doing well. The leaders like him and are introducing him to partners." Someone whispered. His wife's family was from the same village as the Xian landlord. Others looked at the team leader and, seeing he wasn't angry, became bolder, openly discussing Xian Chuanrong. Xian Chuanrong is educated, good-looking, and has carpentry skills. He works hard and studies. If it weren't for his background, he would be a great catch. Red apricot has good taste. Aside from that background, Xian Chuanrong is one of the best around. The team leader's face darkened, and he said grumpily, "That background is the biggest flaw.
My son Jianjun is still in the army.
Everyone fell silent. It was true. The army had strict political reviews, and there couldn't be any issues with background. Xian Chunrong is looking for a partner, so he might get engaged before the new year. Once he gets married, Red Apricot will give up. Someone tried to comfort him. The team leader didn't respond. He felt that the ungrateful girl wouldn't give up so easily.
Sigh.
The team leader felt heavy-hearted. Before, he had Tang Wujin to compare himself to. Whenever the ungrateful girl upset him, he would think of Tang Wujin, and it would comfort him. Now that Tang Wujin was gone, he was constantly troubled by the ungrateful girl, with no comfort at all. What kind of sin had he committed? A big pot of vegetable and salted meat soup dumplings was finished, and everyone ate it all, leaving no soup behind. Yulame and her brother said their goodbyes and headed home. Grandma Tang gave them a chunk of meat weighing about a pound, along with 10 eggs, a few old warm clothes, and a quilt, sending Tang Mantong to escort them home. Grandma, this is too much. I can't accept it. Yulame was a bit flustered. She couldn't repay all this.
Take it.
When you succeed in the future, you can repay it. Grandma Tang insisted, pushing the siblings out. Thank you, Grandma. Yulame held her brother's hand, deeply bowing before leaving. No matter how much she said, it was empty. She must succeed and repay those who helped her. Uncle, you said you would go buy 1,000 sheets. Tang Nian urged. Tang Mantong had mentioned going to the town to buy them in the morning. What's the rush? It's still early, we'll go soon. Tang Mantong had just eaten and was too lazy to move, wanting to wait until the snow stopped. Dad, hurry up and buy some egg cakes too. We haven't had them in a long time. Tang Dandan was also craving them, pushing her dad out the door. Tang Mantong had no choice but to go to the yard to push the cart. A voice came from the loudspeaker. Nian. Phone call. The team leader called 3 times, and Tang Nian had to answer the phone. She guessed it was either Director Wu or Director Qian. However, she was wrong. It was Director Xie calling. Nian, you need to come to Hu City. Director Xie's voice was cheerful on the phone. Tang Nian lazily asked, is it something urgent? If not, she wouldn't go out. On such a cold day, staying home by the fire was much more comfortable. It's an urgent, happy event. I applied for the Outstanding Youth Award for you, and it has been approved. There will be a ceremony at the end of the month, and the TV station and major newspapers will be there to cover it. You need to go accept the award, give a speech, and be interviewed. Director Xie said with a smile. Uncle Xie, can you accept it for me? It's too cold. Tang Nian had no desire to move. She understood why animals hibernate in the cold. It's just instinct. In winter, she wanted to curl up in bed and sleep. She had everything she needed in her space and could stay in bed for a year without any problems. Little Tang, this is your honor. You can't let someone else accept it. You have to give a speech and do the interview. Don't be lazy. The ceremony is on the 28th, so come early. Director Xie felt both love and frustration for this girl. She was smart, capable, and talented, but so lazy. Got it. I'll be there on the 27th. Tang Nian had no choice but to agree. If she refused, Director Xie would probably come to Tang Village to find her. Uncle Xie, will this interview be on TV? When will it air? Tang Nian suddenly remembered something important. She needed to fix a previous lie quickly. It will be broadcast in the evening news, so your family can watch. Director Xie said with a smile. Tang Nian wasn't really concerned about that. She directly asked Uncle Xie, my personal honor isn't that important. This achievement is the result of everyone's hard work in our village. Can you help me contact the TV station and newspapers to report on Tang Village? That's a good idea. Tang Village stands out among many villages and deserves coverage. However, you need to contact the TV station and newspapers in Zhejiang Province. Let me introduce you to someone who works at the provincial TV station. His last name is Zhang.
You can talk to him.
Director Xie was very supportive and introduced her to a friend who was a mid-level officer at the TV station, capable of handling some matters, but not in charge of interviews. Thank you, Uncle Xie. Tang Nian noted down Deputy Director Zhang's phone number and prepared to visit the provincial capital. With the team leader not in the room, she left $1 under the phone, thinking she could use the extra later. However, just a few meters away, the phone rang again. Tang Nian pretended not to hear and continued walking. The team leader, who rushed out upon hearing the phone ring, saw her back and angrily shouted, "Did you hear it and just ignore it? Are you feeling lazy?" Tang Nian had to turn around and seriously explain, "I didn't hear it." The team leader scoffed, clearly not believing her. Tang Nian reluctantly turned back and ran to answer the phone. "Hello, I'm looking for Tang Nian." A cheerful female voice came from the receiver. It was Zhang Lui. "That's me."
What do you want?
Tang Nian was in a bad mood and spoke rudely. "Did you eat something bad?" Zhang Lui teased, then excitedly said, "Let's go to the provincial capital to see the snow. The broken bridge in the snow is famous. I brought my camera to take lots of pictures." "I'm not going." Tang Nian flatly refused. She thought the broken bridge in the snow wasn't worth seeing. She just wanted to lie in bed and sleep.
Come on.
"I'll take beautiful pictures of you, and you can help me with something. I'll treat you to dinner at Lu Wai Lu." Zhang Lui kept sweet-talking, her tone filled with youthful shyness. "Who do you like?" Tang Nian immediately figured out. This was clearly a sign of a crush. "Oh, it's still too early to say." Zhang Lui's voice became even more bashful. Tang Nian rolled her eyes. It was so obvious. Why hide it? "Don't you like that childhood friend anymore?" Tang Nian remembered that the girl liked someone named Qian. She had even sold her work to that guy, who seemed a bit foolish, but they matched well. If both were foolish, it might affect their children's intelligence. "I was blind before. Don't mention him." "Nian, please go with me," Zhang Lui pleaded. Qianbo was already dating someone, and that woman wasn't even half as good-looking. A man with such poor taste didn't deserve her. "Let's talk about it when the snow stops." Tang Nian didn't refuse outright, but she definitely wouldn't go out in such heavy snow. "If we wait for the snow to stop, it will be too late. I have to deliver something to my uncle." Zhang Lui also didn't want to go out in the cold, but her mother ordered her to deliver the items to her uncle's house, and she didn't dare disobey. "Your uncle is in the provincial capital?" "Yes, he works as a reporter at the provincial TV station, always out interviewing. At his age, he still hasn't found a partner, and my grandma nags him every day." Zhang Lui complained about her uncle. Her uncle was her grandmother's late-life child, 20 years younger than her mother, and about the same age as her brother. So even though he was an elder, Zhang Lui and her siblings had a good relationship with him and spoke casually. "Nian, let my uncle treat us to dinner at Lu Wai Lu. It's a pity you already have a partner, otherwise I would introduce you to him. My uncle is quite handsome," Zhang Lui said regretfully. "When are we leaving?" Tang Nian asked. Zhang Lui took a moment to react and happily said, "You agreed? How about tomorrow?" "Okay, you buy the train tickets. I'll head to the city tomorrow." Tang Nian readily agreed. She just learned that her uncle was a reporter at the TV station. "Why didn't you say so earlier?"
Great.
"I knew you were the best. I'll go buy the train tickets now. My aunt sells tickets at the train station, so don't worry." Zhang Lui was thrilled, thinking Tang Nian was doing it for friendship. "See you tomorrow." Tang Nian hung up the phone, too lazy to listen to any more of the girls' chatter. This was truly a perfect opportunity. Her uncle at the TV station was a real find. Zhang Lui was a treasure. When she got home, Tang Nian mentioned she needed to go to the provincial capital for business, and Grandma Tang didn't ask too many questions, just reminded her to bring warm clothes. After dinner, Tang Nian went to bed early, since she had to go to the city in the morning. However, not long after, she was awakened by Su Jinfeng's loud voice. "Why is your stomach hurting? Did you eat something bad? Man Jin, get up and take Jiu Jin to the clinic." Su Jinfeng woke her husband, as their youngest daughter, Jiu Jin, was in severe pain and rolling on the bed. Since Tang Wujin passed away, Su Jinfeng had been more loving towards her two daughters, especially the youngest, Jiu Jin, pouring most of her patience and love into her. "Mom, my stomach hurts. Tang Jiojin clutched her stomach, sweating from the pain, while Tang Lujin stood by, crying in panic. Tang Manjin hurriedly got dressed and picked up her little daughter to go to the clinic. Grandma Tang also got up and was startled to see her granddaughter in such a state. Wrap her in a blanket. Don't let her get cold. Grandma Tang wrapped Nanjin tightly in a blanket. The whole family was anxious and didn't notice the guilt in the little girl's eyes. Nanjin felt a bit panicked. She didn't expect her family to make such a fuss. Usually, when she was sick, they were calm and just went about their business. Why were they so worried today? It made her feel uneasy. Dad, I don't want a shot. Tang Nanjin twisted her little body, refusing to go to the clinic. Be good. It hurts so much. The doctor needs to check you properly. Su Jinfeng comforted her daughter, her voice much gentler than usual. Nanjin felt even guiltier, twisting her little hands, unsure of what to do. Tang Nian also got up, walked over to her sister, and felt her forehead, which was a bit cool. She then reached around to her back and found it dry, without a hint of sweat. Does your stomach hurt? Tang Nian asked coldly. Tang Nanjin lowered her head, twisting her little hands nervously. I have a way to treat it, just a few shots and you'll be fine. Tang Nian held a shiny silver needle, and Nanjin's face turned pale as she shook her head vigorously. No shots, second sister. No shots. She was terrified of needles. The last time she got a shot in her bottom, it hurt so much. Be good, your second sister will make it better with just one shot. Su Jinfeng had no doubts about Tang Nian's medical skills. In her eyes, whatever Tang Nian said or did was right, and she fully supported her. Grandma Tang sensed something was off, mainly due to some memories of hers that suddenly resurfaced. This scene felt strangely familiar. Tang Nian sneered, bringing the silver needle closer to Tang Nanjin, who was now wide-eyed with fear, cold sweat dripping from her forehead. I'm not in pain anymore, second sister. It really don't hurt. Tang Nanjin shouted, thinking she would never pretend to be sick again. Her second sister was too scary. Really not in pain? Not in pain. Are you going to school tomorrow? Yeah. The sisters exchanged questions and answers, and everyone understood. Su Jinfeng was so angry she slapped her thigh and scolded, You little brat, how dare you pretend to be sick and trick us? Where did you learn that? Grandma Tang glanced at Tang Nian, wanting to say that it was all because of her, setting a bad example. But she held back and didn't say it. Everyone go back to sleep. Grandma Tang glared at Nanjin, who lowered her head in fear, not daring to speak, wondering how her second sister figured it out. Clearly, her third sister and her parents had been fooled. She just wanted to sleep in her warm bed and didn't want to go to school in the cold. Why was it so hard? The little girl sighed deeply, feeling defeated. Su Jinfeng gave her a few hard smacks on the bottom and pulled her by the ear back to her room to sleep. Nanjin didn't dare to cry, afraid of getting punished more, feeling hurt inside. Tang Nian smiled to herself, thinking this trick? I used it ages ago. Did she really think she could fool me? Humph. Early the next morning, Grandma Tang pulled Nanjin out of bed, insisting she must go to school. Nanjin didn't dare to resist. After breakfast, she obediently went to school with her friends. The snow had stopped, and there was more than a foot of snow on the ground. They had to wear rain boots to go outside. Tang Nian didn't feel like riding her bike, so she made a simple sled for Baijiu and Fubao to pull her into town. When they reached the county, it was still before 9. She went straight to Zhang Lui's house. Zhang Lui's mother was home too. The mother and daughter looked alike, but Zhang Lui had a simple face, clearly a child from a well-off family who hadn't suffered. Zhang's mother had a sharp look, her gaze always assessing and calculating, making people uncomfortable. Sit down, little Tang, have some malt milk. Zhang's mother was more enthusiastic than the sun in the desert, pouring a rich cup of malt milk. Tang Nian was a bit taken aback by the attention. This was her second visit to the Zhang family. The first time, Zhang's mother had been polite but distant, her gaze scrutinizing like an X-ray. When she learned Tang Nian was from the countryside, her politeness turned into pure indifference, treating her like air. Tang Nian didn't mind Zhang's mother's attitude. After all, she had paid 900 as a VIP customer, so her tolerance was quite high. Besides, Zhang Lui had told her that her mother was a complete snob, treating all relatives from her father's side the same way, looking down on everyone without exception. It wasn't just directed at Tang Nian. By the way, Tang Nian remembered that the first time she visited, she was served a cup of plain tea, which seemed to be from last year. Tang Nian took a sip of the malt milk. It was rich and creamy. Zhang's mother must have added at least 4 spoons. She was increasingly surprised by the hospitality, especially since Zhang Lui mentioned that her mother only added 3 spoons for her own daughter. Little Tang, I heard from Xiao Wei that you work at the Tianjin factory? Zhang's mother smiled warmly at Tang Nian, her smile very kind.
Yes.
Tang Nian nodded and took another sip of the malt milk, which tasted really good. Are you still the deputy factory director at your village's factory? Zhang's mother asked again. Yes. Tang Nian nodded again, finishing the remaining malt milk and smacking her lips. The malt milk at the Zhang family was really delicious. I'll make you another cup. Zhang's mother was quick and took the cup to prepare a stronger one. She realized she hadn't treated little Tang well before, so today she must give her a proper welcome. This time it was still 4 spoons. Zhang's mother prepared it and handed it over with a smile. Thank you, Auntie. Tang Nian reached out to take it and said, I'm just a nominal deputy director. I don't handle things regularly. You're too modest, little Tang. Xiao Wei said you signed over 3 million in orders at the trade fair. Some big factories in the city can't even compare. Zhang's mother gave her a thumbs up, genuinely praising her. It's just good luck, and I had guidance and help from the leaders. I couldn't have done it alone. Tang Nian felt a bit stiff. Smiling too much was tiring. Where was Zhang Lui? Why hadn't she come out yet? Auntie, is Zhang Lui still not up? Tang Nian quickly interrupted Zhang's mother, asking first. She's changing clothes. This child loves to dawdle. Don't worry, the train leaves at noon. We'll have lunch before heading out. Zhang's mother called into the room. Xiao Wei, hurry up. You've been changing for half an hour. What's taking so long? I'm coming. Zhang Lui ran out, wearing a bright red cashmere coat and a matching felt beret, with black pants underneath. She looked pretty, but the coat was a bit long. Nian, what do you think of this outfit? Zhang Lui twirled around, asking Tang Nian for her opinion. Do you have a shorter coat? Tang Nian offered a constructive suggestion. Zhang Lui wasn't very tall, and with her body proportions, a longer top would make her look shorter. There is, but it's old. Zhang Lui pouted. She wanted to wear new clothes to Huqing and didn't want to wear old ones. This outfit is too long. It makes you look like a weight. Tang Nian bluntly pointed out the truth, causing Zhang Lui to pout even more and argue, I look pretty good in the mirror. It makes my skin look fair. How do I look like a weight? If you think you look good, then why ask for my opinion? Tang Nian didn't indulge her and didn't soften her words in front of Zhang's mother. Zhang's mother twitched her mouth. That was quite a sharp tongue. However, she also thought her daughter didn't look good in this outfit, but Zhang Lui was very stubborn and wouldn't listen to her advice. Letting Tang Nian say a few harsh words was fine. Xiao Wei, try on a shorter one. It won't take much time. Zhang's mother suggested. Zhang Lui was just stubborn. She felt something was off when she looked in the mirror, but she couldn't pinpoint what it was. She only argued because Tang Nian said she looked like a weight, which she hated being called short. Because she really was short. Zhang Lui ran back to her room and changed into a blue coat that didn't fully cover her backside, and it looked much better than the red coat. Not bad. Shouting really knows how to match outfits. This one looks better than the red one, Zhang's mother praised. Zhang Lui looked at Tang Nian, hoping for a few compliments. Pretty good.
Tang Nian not that.
Zhang Lui glared. Can't you say something nicer? Tang Nian was too lazy to respond and shook her head. Why should she flatter her? You're just going to the provincial city to shop. Why dress up so nicely? Are you going on a blind date? Tang Nian joked. Zhang Lui's face turned red instantly, and she glanced at Zhang's mother. Acting coy, I'm going to the provincial city. Of course, I need to dress nicely. Don't say silly things. Tang Nianyan looked at her and felt that this girl seemed a bit guilty. Zhang's mother's expression changed slightly, and she asked sternly, Xiaowei, you haven't met that Xianyan, have you? No, Mom. Are you annoying? I said not to mention him again, and you keep bringing him up. Zhang Lui's expression changed, and she angrily went back to her room. Zhang's mother smiled awkwardly at Tang Nianyan and sighed, feeling frustrated. Tang Nianyan remained expressionless, showing no curiosity, which made Zhang's mother feel even more stifled. She was waiting for Tang Nianyan to ask, but since she didn't, how could she vent? Shouting, you and Xiaowei are good friends. Please help me talk to her and stop her from being foolish. Zhang's mother couldn't hold back any longer and brought up this troubling matter. Tang Nianyan actually didn't want to listen or give advice, but she couldn't silence Zhang's mother, so she passively listened to a love story that sounded foolish. That Xuanyan's father is a landlord. That background can ruin a whole family. Even if Xiaowei marries a beggar, it's better than marrying this landlord. No matter how good-looking or capable Xianyan is, he's not a suitable match. Her dad, and her brother have all said good things, but she just gets resentful. Sigh, this child says she won't have anything to do with Xianyan, but she hasn't really cut ties. Don't think I don't know. Tang Nianyan was initially just listening casually, but she could feel Zhang's mother's frustration, which was deeper than the Pacific Ocean. But as she listened, Tang Nianyan started to sense something was off. Xianyan, landlord background, knows carpentry, good-looking and capable. These factors combined sounded so much like that trouble from Tang Hongxing. Auntie, what's Xuanyan's full name? Tang Nianyan asked. Xian Chunrong, he is quite handsome, but that background is deadly. Zhang's mother sighed repeatedly, saying that nothing in the world is perfect. If Xianyan didn't have that label, even without a job, she would definitely agree to the marriage. Tang Nianyan's expression changed. It really was that troublemaker. She didn't even realize that Xianyan was a two-timer. Wait, Tang Nianyan frowned. She remembered something she had overlooked. All along, she had been viewing Xianyan and Tang Hongxing through the lens of her past life, but she had never actually seen Xianyan. In her past life, Tang Hongxing had jumped into a river and died, and Xianyan never married. She had unilaterally assumed that Xianyan was being loyal to Tang Hongxing. But what if Xuanyan's lifelong single status had nothing to do with Tang Hongxing? Moreover, Tang Hongxing had even gone to the extreme of jumping into a river, yet Xianyan had never shown up. During major festivals like Qingming, Duanwu, and Mid-Autumn, according to Tang village customs, the man should personally deliver festival gifts. Even if the team leader and his wife disagreed with the marriage, if Xianyan truly liked Tang Hongxing, he would definitely have come to visit. But until now, Xianyan had never appeared. Tang Nianyan couldn't help but slap her forehead. She had been so self-righteous. Now there were two possibilities. First, Xianyan was a scumbag. Second, Tang Hongxing was really foolish. Shouting, do you know Xianyan? Zhang's mother asked. I've heard of him, but I've never met him. His family isn't far from my village, and his father, the landlord, is quite famous, Tang Nianyan replied. A big landlord, of course he's famous. Zhang's mother sighed again and urged Tang Nianyan to talk to her daughter more. I definitely can't agree to this marriage. If Xiaowei insists, she will definitely suffer. Mom, I've already said I have nothing to do with him. Why don't you believe me? Zhang Lui stormed out with a dark face, clearly unhappy with her mother. She had clearly listened to her parents and made it clear to Xianyan that she wasn't considering marriage for now. Why couldn't her parents trust her? Was she really such a selfish person that she would put her whole family in danger for her own happiness? All right, I spoke too much. I'm going to cook. Zhang's mother got up in annoyance, preparing to make lunch. I'm going out to eat with Nianyan, Mom. I'm leaving. Zhang Lui pulled Tang Nianyan outside, and Zhang's mother chased after them, carrying a big bag. This is for your uncle. Tell him to hurry up and sort out his personal issues and not become an old bachelor.
Got it.
Zhang Lui took the bag and dragged Tang Nianyan toward the stairs. Shouting, please keep an eye on Xiaowei. This child rushes around. Without thinking, Zhang's mother was very worried and chased them to the stairway, giving them many reminders. It wasn't until the two ran far away that she returned home. Zhang Lui and Tang Nianyan had already exited the family compound. She rubbed her ear and said impatiently, "My mom is so annoying. She can repeat the same thing hundreds of times. She wasn't like this when I was younger. She gets more annoying as she ages."
She's just concerned about you.
Tang Nianyan defended Zhang's mother. Although she didn't like Zhang's mother's snobbishness, she knew that for Zhang Lui, Zhang's mother was a good mom. "I know she cares about me, but sometimes it's just too much. Come on, I'll treat you to a meal." Zhang Lui didn't want to talk about those annoying things anymore and insisted on treating. A young couple walked by. The man was Qianbo, and the girl was delicate and gentle, leaning closely against him, looking very affectionate. Zhang Lui frowned, snorted coldly, and turned her head to brush past the two, without saying a word. "Lui." Qianbo greeted her, but she ignored him, making his expression awkward as he smiled at Tang Nianyan. Tang Nianyan nodded and quickly caught up with Zhang Lui.
Don't pay attention to that bad guy.
Zhang Lui glared fiercely at Qianbo's back. "Did he deceive your feelings?" "Not really. He's just blind and can't see that woman's true nature. I told him, but he said I was jealous of Yang Meili and small-minded." "Ugh. Why would I be jealous of that shameless Yang Meili?" Zhang Lui's voice unknowingly rose, and her eyes were filled with tears, showing that she was genuinely hurt by Qianbo. All the way, Zhang Lui couldn't stop talking about Yang Meili. "She has dirty hands. She stole snacks and money from classmates in school, even from me. In high school, she dated a thug from outside the school. I heard she even slept at his place. Usually, she blushes when talking to boys, but when it comes to sleeping with men, she's more active than anyone else. Anyone at school can tell you this, but Qianbo is blind and says I'm narrow-minded and too jealous. It drives me crazy. It doesn't matter. He'll be the one getting hurt in the end." Tang Nianyan didn't understand why Zhang Lui was so angry. If Yang Meili was really not a good person, she would only hurt Qianbo. Why was she upset? We're friends, after all. I'm just too kind and worried about him getting hurt. Zhang Lui looked frustrated. The worst outcome is just being used for money and affection. Why are you so anxious? Tang Nianyan rolled her eyes. Maybe Yang Meili just wanted to find a reliable guy to support her. Qianbo came from a good family, was a bit slow, and was blind to it all. He was the perfect target. Maybe those two could be happy together. Zhang Lui froze, suddenly frustrated, slapped her forehead, and gritted her teeth right. Why am I worrying about this? She realized she was just making herself miserable.
Ugh.
With this newfound clarity, Zhang Lui stopped talking about the two of them. After having lunch at a restaurant, they went to the train station. "I'm going to get the train tickets for my aunt. I'll be right back." Zhang Lui ran to the ticket counter to find her aunt. A quarter of an hour later, she returned with a young man beside her. He was fair-skinned and handsome, with a gentle demeanor, looking like a scholar. However, he was tall and carried several large bags, and even through his thick winter coat, you could feel his strong muscles. A scholar's face with a warrior's physique. This type of man was irresistibly attractive to many women. Tang Nianyan began to understand Tang Hongxing a bit more. "Nianyan, this is my friend Xian Chunrong." Zhang Lui seemed a bit shy, avoiding eye contact. "Hello, I've heard a lot about you." Xian Chunrong smiled and extended his hand. He wasn't just being polite. He genuinely admired her. In the past 6 months, Tang Village had prospered, and everyone was living well, making it the richest village in the commune. Many girls in his village wanted to marry someone from Tang Village. And all of this was thanks to Tang Nianyan. "I've heard a lot about you too." Tang Nianyan shook his hand. Xian Chunrong's expression changed slightly as he guessed why she said that. He then explained, "I haven't promised Tang Hongxing anything. She approached me in March, but I refused. I haven't spoken to her since, and I returned everything she gave me." Although his background was not ideal, He didn't want to compromise in marriage by marrying someone he didn't like. Tang Hongxing was nice, but she wasn't his type. He had no connection with her, and his refusal left no room for doubt, so he didn't understand why she kept sending him things.
Who is Tang Hongxing?
Do you have a girlfriend? Zhang Lui's expression darkened, and she questioned him. She's from the neighboring village, and I'm not familiar with her, Xian Chunrong hurriedly explained. He liked Zhang Lui, but knew he wasn't worthy of her. However, he overestimated himself. He always tried to keep his distance from the girl he liked, but every time he saw her, he couldn't help wanting to get closer. He even fantasized that maybe one day his background would be cleared, and he could be with Zhang Lui. But he didn't know how long that would take. Even if he could wait, Zhang Lui might not. Tang Nian said coldly, "Your business with Tang Hongxing has nothing to do with me, so you don't need to explain." She didn't want to get involved in their relationship issues. I was presumptuous. Xian Chunrong smiled. When Tang Nian mentioned hearing about him, he thought she was reminding him about Tang Hongxing and wanted to clarify, but he realized he was overthinking it. Tang Nian was someone who dealt with significant matters and wouldn't concern herself with trivial issues. Let's go inside. The train leaves in half an hour. Zhang Lui had 3 tickets, and it was clear that Xian Chunrong was also going to the provincial city. I asked my uncle to find a job for Chunrong that will last until the end of the year. Zhang Lui explained first. You don't need to tell me about your matters. Handle it yourselves. Tang Nian didn't want to hear it. She wasn't Zhang Lui's mother. Zhang Lui smiled and said, I was just afraid you'd report me to my mom. Tang Nian rolled her eyes at her. The 3 of them got on the train and found their seats. The train ride from Zhucheng to the provincial city took 2 hours. Tang Nian wasn't used to it. She was used to the high-speed train that took only 17 or 18 minutes. This train was too slow. Zhang Lui and Xian Chunrong sat together, chatting, mostly with her talking and him listening. Tang Nian observed coldly. Xian Chunrong seemed to genuinely love Zhang Lui. She could feel the deep affection in his eyes from afar. But if Xian Chunrong liked Zhang Lui, why didn't he marry her in the past? Tang Nian didn't want to think about it anymore and leaned back in her seat, closing her eyes to rest. My uncle has rented a place for you and contacted several clients who are getting married next year and need furniture. If you get too busy, ask your friends for help. Don't try to do it all alone. Your health is important. Zhang Lui fussed over him like a devoted wife, giving him plenty of advice, while Xian Chunrong listened quietly, nodding occasionally. Tang Nian scoffed. Without even a hint of romance, she was already worrying about a man. Zhang Lui was just too comfortable in her life, seeking out troubles for herself, or perhaps she wanted to find a sense of fulfillment in sacrificing for someone like Xian Chunrong. In modern terms, Xian Chunrong was a phoenix man, and Zhang Lui was a rich beauty. Their relationship was a gamble on Xian Chunrong's integrity. If she were Zhang's mother, she wouldn't agree to this marriage. Given the Zhang family status, Zhang Lui couldn't marry someone too inferior. This man might not be as capable as Xian Chunrong, nor would he be a wealthy man, but after marrying him, Zhang Lui would likely have a smooth and happy life. Marrying Xian Chunrong, however, who knows what the outcome would be. Just focus on your work. When I have time, I'll visit you in the provincial city. Anyway, I'm not looking for a partner right now. I'll wait for you. Zhang Lui's voice grew softer, her face turning as red as a monkey's bottom. Xian Chunrong was so moved that he couldn't help but hold her hand, wanting to confess his feelings. Ahem. Tang Nian cleared her throat loudly, interrupting the couple. Zhang Lui suddenly snapped back to reality, noticing that the other passengers were watching them. She quickly pulled her hand away and stared out the window, trying to hide her embarrassment. Xian Chunrong, unfazed, remained calm as if nothing had happened. When they arrived in the provincial city, they got off the bus and headed to the TV station to find Zhang Lui's uncle. The 3 of them took a tricycle with their luggage to the TV station, which looked quite simple. After registering at the gate, they finally met Uncle Zhang. Uncle Zhang looked to be about the same age as Xian Chunrong, but he appeared even younger, with a baby face that made him seem less mature. Mom asked me to give you this and told you to hurry up and sort out your personal life. Don't become an old bachelor. Zhang Lili relayed her mother's message. I know, your mom just loves to worry. Uncle Zhang sighed, feeling overwhelmed. He wasn't even thinking about marriage. He hadn't achieved anything in his career yet. He looked at Xian Chunrong with a scrutinizing gaze. Xian Chunrong sat up straight, feeling nervous under his scrutiny. Let's go. First, I'll help you settle in, and then I'll give you the addresses of a few clients. You can go meet them yourself. This was Uncle Zhang's first time meeting Xian Chunrong, the man his niece praised so highly. After seeing him, he understood why she was so taken. He was indeed impressive. Unlike Zhang's mother, Uncle Zhang, as a journalist, had a sharper sense of the current situation. He knew things were bound to change in the next couple of years. So, he supported his niece being with Xian Chunrong, believing that social class distinctions would eventually fade. There was no way society would still hold onto such biases. Thank you, Uncle. Xian Chunrong sighed in relief, feeling Uncle Zhang's goodwill and gaining more confidence for the future. I'm only doing this because of Lui. If you want to thank someone, thank her. Uncle Zhang smiled and went back to his office to inform his colleagues before heading out. Xiao Zhang, hurry. We have an urgent interview. Just as they were about to leave, a man rushed over and called out to Uncle Zhang. There's a fire in a residential building on Lulin Road. It's urgent. We need to get ready.
Got it.
Uncle Zhang suddenly transformed, like a sword drawn from its sheath, filled with determination. Xiao Wei, you all stay here and rest. I need to go to work, he said as he ran off, quickly disappearing from sight. Moments later, several people rushed out, carrying cameras and microphones, as if heading into battle. Uncle, be careful. Zhang Lili called after him, but Uncle Zhang just smiled back and continued on his way. The lobby had tables and chairs for guests to rest. Tang Nianyan sat down and picked up a newspaper. After reading a few lines, a memory from her past life suddenly flashed in her mind. In her previous life, she often traveled to Haicheng for work. Once, she heard a local worker gossip about a past incident, mentioning that Lulin Road was haunted because of a major accident in the 1970s. For some unknown reason, a fire broke out, completely destroying an old residential building and killing over 20 people, including firefighters and journalists who were there to cover the story. That day, a sudden wind picked up, and with many wooden structures in the building, the fire spread rapidly. What started as a small fire turned into a massive blaze, requiring all the fire trucks in the city to extinguish it. But by then, both people and buildings had been reduced to ashes, including the firefighters and journalists who initially responded. What did you say was on fire? Tang Nianyan asked to confirm. Lulin Road. Xian Chunrong replied. Tang Nianyan suddenly jumped up, startling both him and Zhang Lili, who wondered what she was planning. Call the fire department and tell them a strong wind will hit in 10 minutes. They need to send more fire trucks to Lulin Road. Tang Nianyan ran off. She remembered the local saying that since the fire was initially small, only one fire truck was sent. It was almost out when the wind picked up, reigniting the flames, and someone had likely stored flammable materials nearby, causing a huge fire. One fire truck wouldn't be enough. I'll call, Zhang Lili said without hesitation, rushing to make the call, trusting Tang Nianyan's words. Tang Nianyan dashed outside. She needed to get to the fire scene. Uncle Zhang was crucial, and he couldn't die now. The firefighters couldn't die either. She had a strong appreciation for firefighters, soldiers, and police officers. She had to help them. I'll go with you. Xian Chunrong followed her without question. Tang Nianyan had no reason to lie about something so serious. Even if it turned out to be false, going was still necessary. He preferred it to be real. You and Lili call. No matter what, get them to send fire trucks, lots of them. Otherwise, many people will die. After saying this, Tang Nianyan dashed into the street, causing screeching brakes and angry shouts from drivers. Are you trying to die jumping into the Qianting River? Don't drag me down with you. Frustrated, the driver saw the young, beautiful Tang Nianyan and swallowed his curse. It was better not to insult someone who seemed a bit off. Let me borrow your car. Tang Nian strode over, opened the car door, and pulled the driver out. What the? This is my car. Are you a thief?
Give it back.
I need to pick up my boss. The driver, now frantic, tried to reclaim his car, but Tang Nian pushed him aside, got in, and drove off skillfully. Is anyone going to stop this? Is it legal to steal a car in broad daylight? As he shouted, the driver started to cry. He was supposed to pick up a boss at the train station, and now a thief had taken his car. His job was likely ruined. What had he done to deserve this? Xian Chuanrong stood there, mouth agape, stunned for a moment before muttering, "She's crazy." Chuanrong, they don't believe me and say I'm making a false fire alarm and will arrest me. Zhang Lui rushed out, nearly in tears, worried for her uncle's safety. I'll make the call. Xian Chuanrong gritted his teeth, thinking of a risky plan. He was betting that Tang Nian was right. Xian Chuanrong pulled Zhang Lui to a public phone booth and called the fire department. His voice turned eerie. I want to destroy this world. I've spilled a lot of diesel on Green Forest Road. In 10 minutes, I will set it on fire. Let's see who is faster, you or me, ha ha ha. After a few maniacal laughs, Xian Chuanrong hung up the phone and dragged Zhang Lui away, leaving the shocked booth lady behind. The lady finally reacted and shouted, "This is serious. Someone is going to burn Green Forest Road. That madman is going to burn it." After calling out a few times, she regained her composure and quickly dialed the police. "Comrades, a madman has spilled a lot of gasoline on Green Forest Road," he said in 10 minutes. "No, only 8 minutes left. He will set it on fire. You must hurry and catch him. He ran off with a crazy woman." The police and fire department became tense. Regardless of whether the call was real or not, they had to take it seriously. If it was true, they couldn't ignore the safety of the public. 3 minutes later, fire trucks from all over the city rushed to Green Forest Road. Police cars also sped out, their sirens blaring, causing panic among pedestrians who had no idea what was happening. With both fire trucks and police cars, something serious was definitely going on. Hearing the sirens, Xian Chuanrong sighed in relief. His plan was working. Now it was a gamble to see if Tang Nian was right. Even if she wasn't, he could just go to jail. After all, he was a landlord and didn't mind adding a label of a labor reform criminal. You're crazy. What if it's a false alarm? You'll end up in jail. Zhang Lui was very angry, worried that Xian Chuanrong would get into trouble. This was no joke. It's fine. Tang Nian wouldn't lie to us. Xian Chuanrong reassured her, trusting his instinct that Tang Nian was right. You're really insane. Zhang Lui glared at him, clasped her hands together, and prayed that Tang Nian wouldn't be wrong. Tang Nian had already arrived at Green Forest Road, where 2 rows of old wooden residential buildings stood. The fire was almost out, but thick smoke was still billowing, and the firefighters were slowing down their efforts. Zhang's uncle was interviewing the residents at the scene. Everyone seemed relaxed, thinking the fire was over. Don't pack up. The fire isn't completely out yet, and the wind is picking up. Tang Nian rushed over to stop the firefighters from rolling up the hoses. There were still embers on the roof, and if the wind picked up, the fire would spread again. They needed to pour more water to completely extinguish it. There's no wind, miss. Don't make things up. A firefighter, looking serious, thought Tang Nian was causing trouble. Tang Nian didn't bother arguing. She grabbed the hose, pushed him aside, turned on the water, and sprayed it at the building. By now, many residents were approaching, wanting to check the situation. Some had even entered the building, which explained why so many people had died in the past. Everyone get out. It's dangerous inside. Tang Nian shouted while spraying water. The cold water soaked everyone, making them shiver. What's wrong with you? Tang Nian didn't bother arguing. She grabbed the hose, pushed him aside, turned on the water, and sprayed it at the building. By now, many residents were approaching, wanting to check the situation. Just then, a strong wind suddenly blew, making it hard for people to open their eyes. The smoke-filled building erupted into flames again, shooting up several meters high, with the wind's help. In an instant, the fierce fire engulfed the entire building, even fiercer than before. The wind grew stronger, and the flames quickly spread to the neighboring building, where many people still lived and hadn't come out. Screams and cries of children filled the air, creating chaos. The firefighters reacted quickly, realizing they had wrongly accused Tang Nian. They immediately began to fight the fire, but with only one fire truck against the raging flames, it was like a drop in the bucket. "My child is upstairs. Save my child," a woman's voice cried out. She lived in the neighboring building and had gone downstairs to collect laundry. In just a short time, the fire had reached her home, and her child was only 1 year old. "My mother is still at home. She's paralyzed. My child is also at home. What do we do? Oh my God." The residents of the neighboring building screamed in terror. When the fire started, they had come out to see what was happening, never imagining it would reach their own homes. Now the fire was so fierce that no one could go back in. A few young firefighters prepared to rush into the flames to save people. Zhang's uncle, forgetting about the interview, also wanted to go in and help. "Everyone, get back." Tang Nian pulled people out one by one. Those who went in would only die. The people who had sacrificed themselves in the past must have been just like them. They were all in their 20s. It was a tragedy. "Miss, don't stop me. If we delay, the child will be in danger." A firefighter shouted anxiously, but his tone was much more polite now. They had wrongly accused her before. "I'm going to save them." Tang Nian's expression was cold. She was confident she could rescue them. "No, you can't." Before the firefighter could finish, Tang Nian dashed forward, snatching their fireproof gear and rushing into the flames.
Get out, miss.
"It's dangerous." The firefighters shouted in panic. This was no joke. Lives were at stake. And such a beautiful girl, it would be a shame if she died. But Tang Nian had already disappeared, leaving only the raging fire and thick smoke. At that moment, Zhang's uncle recognized her and anxiously slapped his thigh. "What do we do now?" A few more firefighters rushed in. If she was that brave, they couldn't just stand by. Xian Chuanrong and Zhang Li arrived just as Zhang's uncle was about to rush in to save people, but Xian Chuanrong held him back. "I'm going." Xian Chuanrong wrapped himself in a soaked blanket. He was faster and stronger than Zhang's uncle, and if there was danger, his chances of escaping were better. "Chuanrong," Zhang Li called out, her face filled with worry. She didn't want her uncle to go, nor did she want Xian Chuanrong to go. She would be worried about both. "Wait for me to come back, okay?" Xian Chuanrong smiled, his eyes full of affection. "Okay, I'll wait for you." Zhang Lui nodded with tears in her eyes. No matter how difficult it was, she would wait. Xian Chuanrong smiled brightly and bravely rushed into the fire. Inside the fire, Tang Nian first ran to the second floor, to a room by the hallway where she heard a weak voice from an elderly woman. She kicked the door open and saw an old woman with white hair struggling on the bed. The elderly woman pointed desperately to the next room. "Save.
Save the child."
"Mommy." A child's cry came from the next room, and Tang Nian decisively went next door. "Stop crying." Tang Nian picked up the wailing child. The child was so scared that they stopped crying and shrank into her arms, sniffling. Tang Nian smiled in satisfaction and moved to the window, but the flames pushed her back. She had to retreat and ran to the hallway, shouting outside, "Catch her." The crowd downstairs reacted quickly. Upon hearing Tang Nian's voice, they quickly formed a circle. Just as they finished, a child was thrown out, landing perfectly in their circle.
"Got it."
The child landed safely on the adult's arms, and upon seeing her mother, she started to cry again. "Don't cry, my dear. Mommy is here." The mother hugged her child tightly, overwhelmed with joy. The crowd went to find blankets, waiting for the next child.
"Catch."
Another shout rang out, and everyone perked up as a 3- or 4-year-old child was thrown out and caught safely. There were 3 floors in total. Tang Nian ran up and down, rescuing 5 children. The firefighters and Xian Chuanrong also saved a few, But when Tang Nian rushed to the paralyzed old lady, she had already lost her breath. Meanwhile, reinforcements arrived, and several water jets shot toward the fire, finally extinguishing it. The scene was chaotic. Two old three-story buildings were nearly burned down, with crumbling walls and thick black smoke everywhere, a sight of devastation. Tang Nian, Xian Chunrong, and the firefighters were all in disarray, their hair and eyebrows singed, and their faces covered in soot. Especially Tang Nian, her once shiny black hair was now burnt and uneven, resembling a dog's chew toy, still smoking and smelling of burnt protein. But she didn't notice, as her face was burned and stung painfully. The scene was noisy, with the son of the paralyzed old lady angrily shouting at the firefighters, demanding to know why they didn't save his mother. "Why didn't you save my mother? She has suffered so much and hasn't enjoyed life yet. She burned to death, and aren't you firefighters supposed to serve the people? Why didn't you save her? Give me back my mother." "Oh, my mother, you died so tragically. I am an unfilial son. You didn't even leave a complete corpse."